Sure, good.
Okay, so Kelly will read the...
Yep, mission and vision. The Falmouth Public Schools creates world-class student learning experiences. Our Clippers are empowered to pursue their goals with curiosity, integrity, and resiliency. Clippers are creative, inquisitive, and engaged learners who participate in their community as socially responsible citizens. Clippers effectively communicate and solve problems that impact the world around them.
Okay. The recording statement. This meeting of the Falmouth School Committee is being recorded. In accordance with Massachusetts open meeting law, anyone who wishes to make an audio or video recording of this meeting must first notify the chair. Please raise your hand. No, Katie? Okay, thank you. Or anybody else? All right. Next, we will hear the Wampanoag land acknowledgement from Mike.
Land acknowledgement. Falmouth Public Schools acknowledges that we are gathering on unceded ancestral land of the Wampanoag Nation. We recognize and respect the Wampanoag people, including those of Succonesset, Wacoit, Sipawissat, Teaticket, and Chappaquiddick, as original stewards of what is now known as the town of Falmouth, and honoring their enduring relationship with this land. This land acknowledgement is an intentional act to counter the erasure of Indigenous people and to demonstrate respect for their sovereign rights. We are committed to educating ourselves and our students about the long-standing history of the Wampanoag people. In alignment with the core values of Falmouth Public Schools, we pledge to build an ongoing partnership with the Wampanoag Nation.
Thank you, Mike. And Margaret, one last reading. We will read 3 of our operating protocols. Thank you, Margaret.
Okay, operator. Exercise leadership in vision, planning, policy making, evaluation, accountability, and advocacy on behalf of students and district while respecting the authority of the superintendent and district staff to manage the day-to-day operations. Maintain an open environment where each member, the superintendent, and the public is empowered to respectfully express opinions, concerns, and ideas, even in times of disagreement. Recognize and respect our authority exists only when a quorum of the committee meets and is derived only through a majority decision of the committee acting as a whole during an open public meeting.
Thank you, Margaret. Oh, lovely. Now we will hear from the student advisory.
Thank you. A few updates from the high school and then all the schools. We have the faculty follies tonight, so I'm going to go catch the end of that. It's a staff talent show or performance of the teachers, and it hasn't been done since 2020. So it's a super fun class fundraiser for all of them, and so that's a big hit. So it's pretty packed there. And then athletics, we had the Powder Puff game, junior versus senior girls flag football. So that was super fun. That was on Sunday. Good turnout, and it was a lot warmer in the morning than it was usually under the lights. So that was great. And then more on football with the home Thanksgiving game versus Barnstable. So that'll be awesome. I think that's their last game of the season. So that's good. And then winter sports registration's open, and then tryouts are December 1st. And then fall sports, we have the awards night on Thursday, December 4th, when we come back from break. And then we have the All Cape Musical Festival was a few weeks ago, and Falmouth sent a lot of musicians, so that was awesome to see them representing. And then Spanish Honors Society recently had a beach cleanup. Math Honors Society had their induction for this year, so that was great. And then I think they inducted like 45 kids, so that was great turnout. And then our honors, we have the Renaissance Fair coming up, which was our main fundraiser to raise money for our New York trip in the spring. So that'll be good. And we've made gingerbread houses and Christmas trees for that. So that's at Woods Hole, and I believe it's December 6th.
Very nice update. Very nice. Thank you. Have fun making fun of those teachers. Yeah. Now that I'm not one, I can say that. Okay. Next, I have to say public comment. Public comment will be limited to 20 minutes. Members of the public are welcome to speak during public comment. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes in length. Due to open meeting law, the committee cannot respond to or act on public comment. Additional comments and feedback can be submitted by email to schoolcommittee@falmouth.k12.ma.us. Okay. I don't have the list.
Is it still on?
Okay. I don't know who's first. Just can't get good help these days. What can I say? Thanks, Cal. Okey doke. So, the first person on our list is Megan Zatoli.
Before I start, I just want to hand these out. Just before you start the timer, I'm just going to hand it to you first. Is that okay? Can we restart the timer?
Do you want me to restart?
I just haven't started.
Sure, go
yet.
ahead.
Yeah, restarting stuff. Let it go all the way down.
Do you think I need to change the angle?
No, it worked from here before, and it worked just fine. Didn't it? No.
Make Mike do
Can Ryan help us?
He's got the
He's coming, so I did.
Sonia, you,
Oh, there it goes.
okay. You knew how to do it too, didn't you, or no?
No, I didn't do it any differently than what Ryan did.
Maybe this happens all the time.
Okay.
Okay, off you go.
There we go. I'm Megan Zottely. I live at Carriage Shop Road. I'm here tonight to urge the school committee to keep MASC provided JICA sentence in our dress code policy. First, I need to address several incorrect legal claims that have been presented to you. The school attorney stated that Lawrence School is not a secondary school. That is simply wrong. DESE classifies Lawrence as a secondary school, and that matters because the legal standards the attorney tried to dismiss actually do apply here. Second, the attorney cited Middleborough case, where a student wore a t-shirt saying there are only two genders, as if that somehow justifies our dress code, but that case is completely irrelevant. It dealt with hate speech targeting a protected class. It has nothing to do with uniforms, collars, or restricting everyday student clothing. Using that case to support our current dress code is illegally unsound. Third, our dress code does not align with settled Massachusetts law. In Pyle versus School Committee of South Hadley, Mass., Superior Court determined that students may wear any clothing containing any message whatsoever, as long as it is not disruptive or obscene. Our dress code is enforced as is inconsistent with that ruling. Removing MASC JICA language would only deepen that inconsistency. The superintendent used the JICA sentence and said that it depends on whether Falmouth has accepted Chapter 71, Section 83, but that is not true. Glenn Kuchar, the executive director of MASC, has made it clear JICA is a general dress code policy and does not rely on the 83 acceptance. And the sentence exists to protect districts from violating student rights. So at some point you have to ask yourself, why is this district fighting so hard to remove protective language? Why erase a sentence that aligns with DESE, aligns with constitutional law, aligns with Pyle, and prevents inconsistent and discriminatory enforcement? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next person on the list is Jennifer McCarthy.
Hi, my name is Jennifer McCarthy, and I live on Mara Vista Ave Extension. And I didn't have anything prepared, but I was driving here and I had a couple thoughts, and I figured no better place to say it than here. So I want to talk about the last meeting on Wednesday when we were here. The superintendent said that she needs to be financially responsible, and I get that, and she said she could have closed an elementary school, that K through 4 would fit in 3 schools. So I'm looking for the recording so I can make sure I have my facts right, because I feel confused. But what about pre-K, right? Like, we have pre-K, so we wouldn't have been able to close an elementary school at all, because the students all need to be have a home within the schools. So I was wondering about that. So, you know, hopefully you can get back to me with the answer. And the other question I had, she had said that she would have to close the school. If we don't make changes, we'll have to close the school. But how do we do that safely with so many students with special needs that have certain circumstances? You know, that would be very difficult to do, and I'm not sure where all those students would go. So I'm just looking for some clarification on that. And the other thing you had mentioned was that wouldn't the school committee as a whole want to help 115 parents? And I just want to point out, you already are. They already are helping them. Don't they? They get free preschool, and they're already enrolled. So I just wanted to point that out. There were a couple other things that I had questions about, and I was wondering if it was recorded so that I can go through and kind of check my facts. And I had more questions about the meeting as well. So hopefully I'll be able to see that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Okay, now we will, you only get 2 minutes too, Lori. See, she put it up here. Superintendent update.
It's not like it says 10 minutes. I'll try to do it within.
No, you know me, I'm always making jokes.
I know you are.
Just ignore me.
I was joking back.
Yeah.
Excuse me. All right, thank you. So I'll start with my safety update. I want to thank the town meeting members for voting the safety articles at town meeting on November 17th. One of the articles allows us now to purchase the enhanced camera software. We have a contract ready. As you know, Paul is always doing the homework ahead of him just in case, and so we're ready to sign a contract and get that enhanced software online. Along with that, we are hiring 2 additional safety monitors to monitor the cameras. So we're going to create an internal Falmouth Public School Command Center. So not to be confused with the town's command center. This will be 2 people that will be watching our cameras on a consistent. And just a reminder, we do have a safety monitor in every single school, and we now have a float monitor, meaning that if anyone's out, we have a monitor that can take their place. It's still full-time, so if nobody's out, then they're still floating around the schools to offer extra hands and support where needed. Along with that, I'm going to be asking the school committee to approve a 3rd SRO on December 9th at our next meeting. Working with Chief Lori, we think that's the right direction to go, and I highly recommend it, and I hope we can have a discussion and approval in December. My team has done some extensive training and readings around what keeps schools safe, and the #1 line of defense in everything we're reading is our mental health support. And I'm very proud that over the last few years that we have really built up our mental health supports. Right now in our budget, it's, somewhere around $2.8 to $2.9 million that supports our counseling teams across the district, including our psychologists, our counselors, our school adjustment counselors. And we also have our partnerships with Falmouth Human Services, Child and Family, and McLean Hospital that also adds additional supports there. And so what we're learning is that when you have the counseling supports, the counselors that know our students the most and needs the supports, we're getting the help the kids need right away. And so and that, again, is considered to be the #1 defense against anything escalating to an unwanted event in our schools. So I hear it from other districts all the time about how well we're staffed in our schools, and I think it's really important that we've been able to maintain that and that we can continue to maintain at the level that we have. I'd like to announce that while we're still looking for our Director of Technology, that Ryan Weber has agreed to take the role of interim IT director for us. We're all very pleased with that. It's great. So thank you, and we are still. It's very important for us that we make sure that we find the right and best IT director for our district. And Mike Falcone, as we'll miss him, but he has really set up our district to successful, and so I'm very confident that we will have someone on board, but not worried in the interim because Ryan has us. I meant to mention at the last meeting, regular meeting, is that the select board approved, many of you probably know that, approved the solar panels at Falmouth High School and North Falmouth Elementary. So we have been moving along, just to let you know that the engineers have been in, they're marking the sites. Things are moving along too, and we are on the right path to put the canopies in next summer. So things are moving quickly. Appreciate that. Thank you, Paul. Many things you're on top of. The most recent reports of the federal about the federal government, the majority of the programs currently managed by the Federal Office of Elementary and Secondary Education will transition to the U.S. Department of Labor via an interagency agreement. The programs that will be included are Title 1A, Title 2A, Title 3A, Title 4A and B, and the McKinney-Vento Homeless Act, among some of the others. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, programs will for now remain at U.S. Ed, but as well as the Office of Civil Rights, but there's more information to come. But the one section has been decided, and at this time, there's we won't know anything till the end of January. But at this time, nothing has been cut as far as the funding. So more to come at the end of January on that. And then my Clipper update, because it's the year of the Clipper.
Yeah.
The North Falmouth Elementary Regal Siglets won their the Innovation Project Award, second place for it. So this is the first robotic competition they went to this weekend, and they got second place for their innovation project. That's huge. It's their first time in a major competition. So I'm very pleased with that. And that's where I'm going to end on that happy note.
Nice note. Is that the group that came last year that we saw?
So those are the high school, the high school team, and they did their first competition last year and continued to move along. They were doing very well. And so now we got the North Falmouth Elementary. That's why they're the Regal Siglets. So the high school team is working with the elementary team. Very exciting. It was so they had a practice run last week. Yeah, it would have been last week. And so we got to go and watch that, and they did a fantastic job. It was really exciting, and that was their practice run before they went to the actual competition. So lots of engineering processes there, and so so even our youngest ones are doing well.
It's so cool when the older ones teach the younger ones too.
That is so true.
Both sides benefit. Thank you, Lori. Very happy update there.
Terry.
Is there any chance for a question? Or are we
Oh, yes.
I was just, two quick questions. The solar panels, there's some deadline with the federal government on July 4th. When you said they'll be starting next summer, we're not gonna run into that federal
These were
deadline on July
already,
4th.
they already fell under the old regulations.
All right, thank you. I heard about that on the radio.
Yeah.
And the robotics team, that's so amazing. Do we have any other schools aside from the high school in North Falmouth who have a robotics team?
Not at this time.
Okay. So North Falmouth is our STEM school.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I didn't mean to ignore anybody.
No. Will there be, so I know you had mentioned about talking about a vote next month. Is there going to be another I don't know, more opportunity to ask a few safety questions. I don't want to do it now to take away from the meeting because that's not the focus of the meeting, but is that going to be part of next month that we can ask some questions?
Yes, of course. You can ask now if there's a question.
Well, I mean, I don't want to dominate the meeting on, you know,
Yeah,
on questions about
we can put
safety.
time in for that if you'd
Okay,
like.
that would be appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment.
Yeah.
I appreciate the research that you mentioned into, you know, strategies that work, because like we rely on the police department for a lot of our, you know, safety information and knowledge about how to create safe spaces, but theirs is a specific alley. So I appreciate the research that's going into, you know, social and emotional and mental health services and how they benefit, because I would have guessed that to be true, but I'm not an expert in it, so I appreciate somebody taking it on.
Any other, Melissa?
Couple things about the circling safety. I'm excited to have further discussion and support the third SRO. I'm excited, I don't know if excited is the correct word to use. I am hopeful that our students who see their school district putting social and emotional and mental health forward and recognizing that it is extraordinarily important, that as they grow up to be adults will recognize that in whatever profession they go into. I'm just gonna hop on a soapbox that we do not do enough for our mental health in this country. So perhaps Falmouth being an ambassador, I'm sure we're not the only one, but I'm going to give you credit here, that I am hopeful that our young Clippers will recognize that this, among other things that Falmouth has stated is important to Falmouth, that they will then in turn recognize that and hopefully continue to make that a priority in whatever profession they go into. Role models.
Yes.
Anybody else?
No, thank you.
All righty. Next, we will have a presentation on literacy and mathematics.
So I'd like to introduce Karen Carson and Erin Castadio. They have been before us before, but we appreciate it that you're here and that you're giving us a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Are you sharing screen? You good? Yeah. All right. So much easier in the olden days when you just like sat at the table and talked. Thank you again for the opportunity to share an update on our K-6 math and literacy work. We're gonna walk you tonight through some of our spring screening data and kind of talk about where our students are thriving, where we see some persistent need, and how we're using this information to strengthen our instruction. We know you've seen MCAS data, and that's certainly very important information that we can use and look at progress over time. However, internally, we have other data sets that we use on an ongoing basis that come from our benchmark and screening assessments. They are also norm referenced and allow us to make comparisons both to other districts in Massachusetts and across the country. But it really goes deeper than that and allows us to see strengths and weaknesses in individual students, in classrooms. It provides resources to intervene and provide support. The data shared tonight in most of our slides is from our end of the year testing in June. And just as a reminder that we do our diagnostic testing 3 times a year. We do beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year. So this is a snapshot of kind of where we were at the end of last year, and we'll talk a little bit about kind of how that shaped some of what we're doing this year. So we're going to start with math. As you know, we are 2 full years into our implementation with iReady, and currently in year 3. Across the district, we have seen increased consistency in lesson routines, expanded uses of iReady resources. The program itself is so rich in what it offers, and oftentimes in year 1 and 2, you're just kind of trying to muddle through and teach the lessons, but there's so many other resources there, and that's really been a place we've been able to go this year. What other assessments, the assessments we've has, what are some resources to work with kids. So we're also seeing, you know, that alignment across schools and across grade levels. With the adoption of the new ELA program that Aaron will talk about in a few minutes, math is kind of taking a little bit of a back seat this year in terms of our professional development and the constant focus on that. However, I'm confident that the good habits we created in year 1 and 2 will take us through the next couple of years. Additionally, there have been many opportunities in the implementation of EL to make connections, both instructionally and kind of just shifts in teaching through both programs. So as we see new things come up in EL, we can reflect back and say, yes, that's like this part of iReady, and really starting to see some crossover in some of the language, which is kind of fun. All right, so let's look at some data. It's always nice to kind of start with how we did compared to other people. So the data in this graph, you'll see it does represent all iReady students, and while my focus is K to 6, we use iReady K to 8, and I don't have the ability to disaggregate just those grades. So this represents all of the students in Falmouth K to 8 that are using iReady. Some of the other slides we'll look at are specific to K to 6. But overall, our kids compared, comparatively speaking, are doing really well. You've got these 4 bars, and Falmouth's bar is on the far right, the 42% and the 20% that are early on grade level or mid or above. And then moving, which is counterintuitive, but moving from right to left, you see the mass year to date and the national year to date, and how we compared in the spring of 24-25 for all students across the country in the Commonwealth that took the diagnostic. That last bar, that national norm bar, is a pre-COVID cohort. I know you hear a lot sometimes in the news, like they talk about how we're not quite back to COVID standards, or not quite back. We've surpassed that here in terms of this one assessment, right? When you start talking about assessments, you gotta remember every assessment is a piece of a pie. There's not one that is the be-all and end-all, and it's looking at all of them together and making some decisions, but in this particular assessment, we are exceeding those pre-COVID numbers. So the next couple slides are really just the same data, the same 4 columns, but broken down by grade level. And as you just, even if you just look at the colors, right, and not even so much the numbers, you can see that consistent, this isn't in everybody's way, it's just in mine, right? You can see consistently across the grade levels, we continue to outperform the state in the nation. So from the placement distribution, we can take it down to the next level and look at, breaking things up by domain. And when we talk about domain, we really just kind of mean groups of standards, groups of like standards, within a content area. So this graph looks really confusing. It's not that confusing. The top numbers are your grade levels. Your numbers down the, your left, are those domains. And then you have within each grade level, the percent of students placing mid or above grade level compared to those national norms. Navy blue is really good. We like to just, again, I'm a big, like, the color kind of can tell a quick story. That means, so number one, we don't have any gray. So all of our grade levels at every domain are performing above the national norms. The dark gray, the dark blue, the navy blue is that is more than 5 percentage points. Whereas the brighter blue is between 0 and 5%. So that's really encouraging. When you talk about achievement, you have to also look at growth. And it's not just about doing well, it's about, that growth for students from their beginning. So one of the data points they use heavily, and we're going to talk about it a few times tonight, is this idea of progress to annual typical growth. So I sets 2 growth goals for every student based on their fall score, their fall placement score. They set what is considered a typical growth score and a stretch growth score. And I know I've talked about that here before, but just as a reminder, typical growth is that amount of growth a student should make in a typical year. Stretch growth is the growth a student needs to close the gap. So for our struggling learners, they need to make more than typical growth. That typical growth is just going to kind of keep them doing this, whereas this stretch growth is going to bring them closer. In order to change baseline placements going forward, it's a multi-year journey, right? They don't just make it up in a year. But if a student is to close that gap, if they make that stretch growth, more often we're gonna start to see those baseline placements change. So here at the top, you see that our median annual typical growth is 122%. So that middle value, so if we took all the kids that took the iReady diagnostic and we lined them up, lowest score to highest score, and we found that middle point, our middle has surpassed their typical growth score, right, which would be 100, by almost 22%. And so that's really encouraging, right, because that means everybody above that has done more than 122%, and you've got some on the other side that have also. And you can see down at the bottom, sorry, my throat is, just gonna grab it. Down at the bottom is the actual percentage of students. And again, in that typical growth, we had 62% of our students meet or exceed their typical growth score, which is phenomenal. On the stretch growth side, we have 33% of our students meeting their stretch growth, and that kind of needs to be kind of where our focus goes next. We did a lot of work around typical growth and having data chats with students and helping them to see how some of the work we're doing can help them meet their growth goals. This year we shifted a little bit to start looking at that stretch growth, because that's now the work we need to do. And we'll look at that again a little bit. We can also look at relative placement because you look at subgroups. through MCAS. I wanted to just share some of those. We don't have the same subgroups that they have in MCAS available to us, but we have a couple that overlap. And you can see our English language learners. This is our overall group, right? All of the students at the top, and then the yes bar are students that are identified as multilingual learners. And even there, that median score again is at 108, which is more than 100%. iReady's gold standard is 120 in order to close gaps, but anything over 100% is considered really strong. Same with our students with disabilities. They're performing a little bit better on this assessment than our multilingual learners. In terms of their growth, you can see that typical annual typical growth median is 115%. But overall, really encouraging. If we look at how relative placements have changed from spring to spring, so on the left is 23-24 compared to 24-25, and they look pretty similar. And that's something we're really going to watch and pay attention to because we don't want to be stagnant. However, this really is similar to what we have seen in our MCAS scores and what districts around the Commonwealth and the nation are seeing. I was in we were at an iReady conference back in October, beginning of November, October, in that stagnation, for lack of a better word, is something that they are seeing across the country. But it's something we're aware of and something we're watching. And in my conversations with our partners at iReady, when the question is asked, like, so what do we do about that? That's where that stretch growth goal comes into place, because that's what's going to move those baseline placements. At the end of the day, I love to share this slide with everybody every year, because I think it just really highlights all the good work happening across the grade levels. This is the 4-square quadrant, where it compares growth to achievement, right? So we looked at achievement in the beginning, then we looked at some growth, and now this kind of takes the two and say, what do we learn from that? In Falmouth, across the grades K to 8, continue to be high performance, high growth in this assessment. So I've highlighted, it was hard to see, the grays were a little kind of close. So I highlighted that top quadrant in pink. And all of our grade levels fall in there. So that's something that as a district we should be really proud of. And I know that the teachers work hard every day to make sure this is the kind of results we see. So the last thing I want to share with you is I want to come back to this idea of stretch growth and how important it is and why that's been our shift this year in terms of as teachers are writing student learning goals, right? We've always used typical growth for math as our value that we're going to use. And in this year, the suggestion was made, I know it's hard, but we really need to look at the stretch growth. So you can see here across the grade levels, K to 6, the percent of students who have actually met their typical growth. Again, iReady's gold standard here is 50%. We're much higher than that in across the scores. But you can see down in stretch growth, our scores are a little bit lower there. So that's where we want to move the needle. And here's why. This to me is where it all comes together. And if all this data talk is making your head go, oh my gosh, there's a lot of it, this is where it's all at. What you have here is cohorts of kids compared to the fall of 23. So the beginning of the year in our first year of implementation. The second column is the end of the year, at the end of year 2. So it's 2 full years. And basically what it is showing is, so this is considered a cohort analysis. And I'm gonna start on the left. You can see the baseline placements for this cohort of 654 kids who did not meet their stretch growth in either year 1 or year 2. So they may have met typical, but in year 1 or year 2, they did not meet their stretch growth. And you can see where their baseline placement ended. They still made growth, right? The data still looks better. So the middle columns, the cohort is now down to 552 kids who met their stretch growth in one of the 2 years. So in one of those 2 years, they hit that stretch growth. Look at the increase in the green. The last column are the kids who met their stretch growth in both years. And then the amount of increase in the baseline placements for those kids is amazing. So that's where it's at for us right now, is looking at that, helping kids meet their stretch growth goals. And we're doing that through a number of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 supports. We want to keep the positive momentum moving. So we're focusing on setting tier 1 learning goals that push for stretch growth, using data systematically in our MTSS structure, our multi-tiered system of supports, expanding our UDL practices, strengthening the use of MyPath, making sure we just had a grade level department meeting last week. And one of the, we did a little mini data dive for the teachers to look at their own class level and just make sure those kids are hitting those MyPath minutes because that's where that intervention in helping them with some of the skills they're missing is going to come, in addition to small group instruction from teachers. We've worked really hard to ensure schedules that are designed to support the core curriculum. And then Morse Pond has been able to include an intervention block this year. We did a lot of training around that through staff meetings. And we continue to look at training and resources in the program itself that can support learners at all levels.
Thank you, Karen.
Just turning up the brightness on here. I don't
Sorry.
know if you saw, but I didn't want to put my finger on there while you were speaking. So yes, we'll do some reading updates. I have a lot of views that will really mirror what you saw for math. I say data, she says data, so we get that little difference than that. We're pretty aligned. But before diving into that data, I mean, this is a really important opportunity just to really touch upon the implementation of EL education in kindergarten through grade 6. So I just have this one slide for you for this evening to just kind of frame the goals that we have for our year 1 implementation of this program. So without my truly reading from here, I will just kind of like point you in the direction that our goals really focus on building strong, consistent instructional practices that support all learners. This slide highlights the key priorities that are guiding our work, from strengthening foundational reading and writing skills to promoting academic discourse, equity, and you'll see in here that habits of character is something that is actively taught and learned within the curriculum. So that's very exciting for us to be taking this on this year. And then together, these goals really reflect our commitment to high quality teaching and learning as we build a really solid foundation for deeper implementation in the years ahead. I know there's a lot on here, so I don't want to blow past this too quickly, but one of the things that Karen talked about with finding kind of parallels between iReady and EL education is they're so strong in academic discourse. So what we've noticed is that some of the routines, they might be called something different, but they really are about having kids really talk things through, really focus on oral language, which is very exciting to see those parallels for teachers and students. So let me just take a peek here. So I'm actually going to start with grades 4 through 6 for the simple reason that in grades 4 through 6, we use the iReady reading diagnostic. So what you've just heard, the information you've heard about iReady, this just flows. We use something different in kindergarten through grade 3, so I just kind of put that and that's led into the end of the presentation by design. So we utilize this at grades 4 through 6 because the diagnostic is really, that's the information we're really looking for. When students are already in there and they're reading, we want to really see like, what are they comprehending? What's their vocabulary like? And some of the standard benchmark screeners, they're not designed to do that. So the diagnostic is, we found to be a better fit for our students in grades 4 through 6. So as you can see, we have the same graph here where we have the spring placement distribution for district and benchmarks. Very similar trends to what we were seeing with math is that we are consistently outperforming the state and the national norms, which is always encouraging to see. Just going to give you a moment to take a peek at that. So it's really encouraging to see, especially like as they're getting through, when we look at in say 6th grade, for example, we've got 56% of students who are early on grade level or mid or above grade level. So it's really promising to see as our students progress, how they're really hanging in there and doing some terrific work. We have a similar view here where Karen mentioned, remember she said Navy is really good, right? I just want to point out where it says phonological awareness, high frequency words at the top, those are blank. That's simply because in grades 4 through 6, those aren't measured through this test. So while it would be something that's measured in the lower grades, it pre-populates there, but it's always a little confusing because it comes up empty. And then you have phonics that isn't coded. Do you see how there's just a percentage there? Not all students will see phonics related questions. If they are showing that they're having a hard time because it's a computer adaptive assessment, the computer will go back to that. So that's why that's not, there's not that national average comparison there because it's not all students. And so, you know, as we're looking through, so we see vocabulary, we're above the national percentage between 0 and 5 percentile points in 4th grade, and then 5% or more higher in comprehension, literature, and informational text. That's exciting to see. We can see 6th grade was all, you know, Navy all the way, which is fantastic. And then just going back to 5th grade, we had, in terms of comprehension, we were close. We were between that 0 and 5 percentile points there. So some very promising data coming in. What are the relative placements in growth by English learner? Again, as you saw earlier, that top bar is all of the students who took the diagnostic. The yes would be students who are considered a multilingual learner. And as we know, they're a multilingual learner for a purpose. They're still learning the language. So that's not something that you know, is jarring to see. We understand that they're in the place where they're really working towards increased language proficiency. And at the bottom, that teases out the number of the students who are multilingual learners. But one of the things that is very cool to see, so in that yes bar line, we do see 42%, right, of students who are considered 3 or plus grade levels below. But when we look at their progress to annual typical growth, that is really high, 165%, right? So we know that they're not quite there, but the growth is really happening. So we're getting to benchmark, but we still see that they are making really significant progress, which is so important to be able to tease that out and dig deeply like that. And this is a similar view. It's just that we are looking at the relative placements and growth by special education. So again, top row is everybody, how those placements sort of like shook out. And then yes would be that is the performance of special education students. And then no is the progress of students who are not considered special education. Then we're going to switch gears a little bit. Okay, so in kindergarten through grade 3, we actually use a tool called MClass. That's an all-in-one system for science of reading-based universal screening, dyslexia screening, progress monitoring, and instruction. The Falmouth Public Schools utilizes MClass in kindergarten through grade 3. It goes beyond that, but we found again that in grades 4 through 6, we just got a lot more information from the iReady reading diagnostic. If this is powered by Dibble's 8th edition, some of you may have heard of Dibble, so it's a really tried and true measure of foundational understanding, but it's put together in a platform called MClass that is really, has some really neat features that I'm gonna show you, just to see, so that you can see what teachers have at their fingertips. This is just a really quick snapshot so that you can see the types of things that we're looking at and working on. At the end of the day, we're looking at foundational skills that are really necessary to have in place to become a proficient reader. So the purpose of doing this is just to kind of, this is, you know, if a student shows a level of risk, we might look at their profile and say, oh, you know, they might need a little support in this area or overall. So we can see that there's letter naming fluency. That's something done at kindergarten and first grade. We've got some focus on phonological awareness, specifically phonemic awareness, the ability to hear, isolate, manipulate individual sounds, right? In words, the alphabetic principle, so being able to identify letters and sounds and blend words together. Then there's word reading, and there's oral reading fluency. There's also a comprehension measure called MAZE, where students fill in, you know, the appropriate words so that we're gauging their comprehension and their understanding of syntax a little bit more, and that starts in 2nd grade. This is just an example. This is what we looked like in the spring of 2025. There's a lot of information on this page. If you take a look at K1, 2, and 3, you can see that there is the composite score is the overall score. So this is sort of the merging of all of those individual subtests, right? So it's their overall score. BOY means beginning of year, MOY middle of year, and EOY end of year. So one of the things that's very cool to be able to see is when you look at, even just look at the blue, right? The blue are students that are above benchmark. And so when you look at even just from kindergarten, right, that goes from 24% to 21% to 44%, we can see that we really become heavier and heavier, right? And we want to see that blue, we want to see that green with diminishing red. And it's really cool to see from K to 1 to 2, how those blue and green bars are getting larger the more instruction they get, and those yellow and red are shrinking. So there's something really special about this view because of the way it's organized, right? It's just a really simple, powerful view that shows, you know, our students' progress over time. Here's an example of a subtest for phonemic awareness. So again, this is just showing, again, this is just at kindergarten and first grade. It is showing their performance over the course of the year. One of the things that you might notice is if you're looking in, it's important to keep in mind when you're looking at benchmarks, if you're looking at beginning of year in kindergarten, for example, it suddenly looks, when you get to the middle of year, like what happened? Their scores went down. It's not that, it's just that they're being held to a higher standard. So often what we find at the beginning of year, especially with like our, kindergarten and first grade, is that the bar, the benchmark is rather low and they can really do their thing because they haven't had instruction yet, right? So that benchmark is sort of lower. And then all of a sudden, that true read really comes kind of mid-year because the bar has been, so it's a moving target, if you will. They're really, the ante is upped for each benchmark. So I just wanted to show you that. And then the one addition that you'll see to the data in grade 1, do you see how there's suddenly the addition of like this striped green line? Mm-hmm. That essentially just means that those students they bypassed that test. They did so well in another measure that the gates closed. So it's understood that they have that skill. So that's what the addition of that really is. And then we just see the very same thing. So scores by subtest. This is the reading accuracy in grades 1, 2, and 3. It begins in grade 1. And it is, again, what a really terrific view to see how that accuracy increases with repeated instruction. Again, the benchmarks are going up, the expectations are heightened, but it's really awesome to see that at the end of year, we had 92% of students in grade 3 that were accurate.
This is last year, right?
This was, yes, just last year. So so it gives you the full view of like where we started to where we ended. Yes, you're very welcome. And this is just another view. This is the oral reading fluency, which is really like how quickly they read. That's the piece that it's a piece of information. It's not the end all be all, but you can see some really promising trends here too, where kids, the more they're doing their thing, we have more and more students who are, right, with practice, with the support that they need, we see improved percentages of students who are at benchmark, above benchmark, or in that note is really just below, but sometimes closely approaching. I just wanted to show you the M-Class teacher view. We were really excited to get this tool last year. Really excited because it has such powerful tools in reporting. And so this is the class summary. So basically a teacher can just take a peek and say, oh my goodness, here's what my class looks like. So if you take a look, for example, of well below benchmark, and below benchmark in word reading. 20% of students were well below benchmark and 40% were below benchmark. Just that snapshot can help them kind of adjust like some of the things that I might be doing in small group, like could I turn that into a whole group lesson? It seems like it would benefit a large number of students. So that's a tool that they have in their arsenal. In addition, one of the things that's very cool is not something that we've had in the past, but you're able to go back and look at what errors students made. So for example, if the reading specialist screened, some of your students, the teacher missed that opportunity, right, to kind of see like what were those errors. You can go back and see, is it B's and D's, right? Like, oh, perfect, we can look at that. Or is there a certain letter that, repeatedly they're missing? So it's a really nice tool to be able to go back instructionally to lean on for sure. And then what the coolest thing, I didn't realize that this feature existed, and we were so excited to see this happening. One of the things that M-Class does for teachers is it allows them to take, so we have this benchmark data, and we've got several months before we get new benchmark data, right? One of the things that's really neat here is as you progress monitor students, so you're looking at those same subtests and checking in with kids, it will update instructional recommendations for students. So do you see how it says update recommendations in that like purpley pink button?
Mm-hmm.
That brings you to an absolutely incredible arsenal of actual lessons to do with students based on what the system is saying. Like, here's what they need. Here's their area of most significant need. Start here. And so it is really cool because as students progress between benchmarks, we get accurate data where all these groupings are redone. So I blocked out student names. I just put student name, student name, student name. Each teacher has their classes broken into roughly between 5 and 7 or 8 different groups. And it gives you the materials that would be needed to work on that skill. But again, over time, the more you update it, those groups are fluid. It keeps updating, which is a really cool tool. So instructional next steps for reading. So in terms of Tier 1 instruction, obviously our focus is to continue that Year 1 implementation of EL education, curriculum for kindergarten through grade 6. We have a strategic planning team that is comprised of our assistant superintendent and our principals, myself, Karen, and some of our department heads. We have Molly Drain, the world language department head, and Christine Nicholson, our ELD department head, and Sarah Cox, our ELA department head at 7 through 12, really working together to make sure that everyone is really understanding what we're doing in the K-6 space. So I'm really grateful for that. We've already had, 2 full days of professional development with EL education. We have 10 different days this school year that we have an EL coach coming into the schools, and it's really exciting so that teachers have that really like close time with individuals to kind of work through challenges and so forth. As Karen mentioned earlier, we do have new schedules at kindergarten through grade 6 that were designed to support time on learning. We knew that we hear a lot like, oh, there's just not enough time in the day, right? And so we realized that if we bring things back and create something that something that works synergistically together, right? That's put together at the building level, that we could really prioritize when students were pulled for support. So the schedules are doing a really fantastic job of keeping kids in for really core instruction. So that's been something that's working for us. And then one of the things that's very cool is that the addition of the skills block, which is the foundational programming at kindergarten through grade 2, is actually differentiated Tier 1. So they have 15 minutes of a grade level lesson in which all students in the classroom are learning that grade level lesson. They're exposed to that work, and then they break into groups for the remaining 45 minutes where they based on a placement test, they're working exactly where they're at. So it's the best of both worlds. They're being held to those grade level standards, but then also working exactly where they need to be. So that's been really exciting. So for tiers 2 and 3, we certainly continue to lean on the instructional recommendations provided in MClass for K-3, and we didn't talk about it today, but what is in iReady for this in the same way. The amount of resources there are really staggering that are connected directly to student data. And then one of the things that I talked about a little bit last year, my goal to make sure teachers are aware of it again this year, to keep the conversation open, just the what works clearinghouse. It's something that I know in our work with Katie Novak, she's brought up just real evidence-based resources that they can go to and say, this is what I need, and you sort it, and you have those really quality tools there for you. And then certainly progress monitoring of students who have not yet met benchmark or grade level goals is an important part of the journey, just to make sure that we always have a pulse on where they're at. That's where we're at right now. Thank you.
A lot of information here.
It is.
Yeah.
Mind-boggling.
Take questions.
Okay, Margaret, do you have any questions?
Not right now.
Okay.
Can you just remind me when ELA reading was implemented? I don't remember. Was it just last spring, or there was like a whole year's worth
The
of
new
data?
curriculum,
Oh, okay.
just started in September.
Oh, okay, so what we were looking at was not the same as like the previous year's math, right? It was just. Right. What was that data from? I'm sorry, I was like wondering what the
No,
timeline was.
you're absolutely fine. So the data is from, we use the diagnostic, the assessment that's part of iReady, but not the curriculum. Does that make sense? So for math, they utilize the curriculum, and the diagnostic is a part of it. We just use that as an assessment to see where kids are at, but they were using a different curriculum last year. We were still using journeys.
That's what I thought, okay.
Yes.
So they're doing, when you say diagnostic, they're doing little tests on regular basis starting this fall?
Yes.
And that's, okay, so that's where the data came from?
Yep.
Okay. And I didn't see, is there a stretch growth for reading as well? I didn't see graphs looking at specifically stretch growth as there were for math.
We would be, no, that's a great question. We had a lot of slides that we had kind of like moved down. There was so much that it was sort of outrageous.
Okay.
So that was, I mean, this was, in and of itself, a lot to digest. We'd be happy to.
I was just
share
wondering
those
if that
with you,
was-
but yes, there's.
Yeah, for the iReady, not for M-Class.
Yes.
M-Class is a separate company,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. I was wondering what percentage of do you know what percentage of students nationally use iReady? Because when the national norms, spring 22 to 23, I didn't know what that number meant. In comparison to the
I've
national.
seen the information. Off the top of my head, no. iReady is amazing for there are all sorts of documents, so I could probably find that information for you. But talking about the studies that they do, how they come up with that information, they have all the correlation documents and everything. But
Okay.
off the top of my head,
It's hard to know what that number means compared to the numbers we had in those graphs without knowing how many students that is. Or okay, so I think there was one more. That was a wonderful presentation, by the way. Thank you. And I just feel really bad, but I've forgotten. You are Karen.
I'm Karen.
Erin Castillo.
Aaron.
Don't feel
Karen
bad.
and Aaron.
That's
Okay.
fine.
The math. There was one question. Have the older students who were not using iReady, so the current third graders are the ones who started with iReady,
Yes.
is that right? So have the older students who are now using iReady, has that transition gone smoothly? Have they
Yes.
learned how to use it?
This is really probably the first year. What we're seeing is, so when you implement all grades at one time, right? There's some what we call implementation gaps that happen when a program does something a certain way, but you haven't had that in second grade, and now you're a third grader, right? This is the first year I'm hearing consistently in the classrooms that I'm in or in talking to teachers, some of that's gone away.
Okay.
Now, the kids are familiar with the routines, and they're familiar with the instructional strategies, and they know when I say this, they know what I'm talking about. So we're seeing that those implementation gaps go away.
Go down. That's great.
Yeah, which
it'll
is
be
nice.
interesting to see the next 3 years of data. See a full
Sure.
range of K to 6. I think that's it.
Mike?
I just had two questions. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very in-depth. My question, which is actually what Katrina just asked you on slide, I also like how you put the slide numbers on some of these, but not all of them. I think it's slide 5. On the bottom, it says the national and mass year-to-date population. I'm sorry, it just basically, it's what Katrina was just saying, how many students are in iReady? Because it says here 10,200,000 national and 203,000 in mass. And those are just qualifying numbers for where you're getting these charts from. And then the overall question is, not nationally, but in mass of those 203,000, I think, and I don't want to steal Katrina's point, but where they're coming from and how many
How many
schools.
districts?
Yeah, how many
Yeah.
schools are using it, so we kind of have an
I
idea.
can certainly ask our, salesman would know that.
Yeah, just to kind of get like a map, 'cause it'd be interesting to see, and like the percentage of schools. Then my last question, which I ask often, is, on your charts, and this goes for both of your charts with the iReady, it breaks down like grade K, 1, 2, 3, and I'm looking at M class right now, composite, beginning of year, middle of year, end of year. You have all those grades, can you break those down by school? I ask this every time, but just because when we did the MCAS scoring, I had viewed that certain schools and certain grades were changing the median, so.
Yep, no, that's a great question. On my end, I am able to see all that. I just
Okay.
didn't want you guys to be here until
That's
past
fine.
midnight tonight. But you know, perhaps that's something that we could follow up with. But for the
That-
purposes of this, we did at the district.
That's perfect. If we could, that'd be great, but thank you for keeping it where it was.
Liz?
Karen,
Yeah.
sorry, I know you're struggling right now. Why the stagnant in the spring to spring? Has there been any national reporting on that? Like,
No,
is
I
it
haven't
the
been able to
age?
figure that out. Like,
Okay.
when I keep kind of asking that when I meet with our partners at iReady, and
Sure.
there's no set reason for it, but it's not but it's something they're seeing
Sure.
across, right? So, which is why I think for us here, we've just said like, nope, we need to kind of watch that and here are some things we can do to help.
Sure. Okay. And then Erin, in the 4 to 6, the habits of character, I can't help but parallel that with the Atomic Habits written by James Clear. It seems to be a lot of the same, and I pulled it up on my phone. Small, consistent habits lead to significant change. The importance of systems over goals and focusing over identity-based habits. It sounds like you're implementing that, or the program is implementing that at our young learners at a young age, so that when they are in their 20s and 30s, and they are then, making up for lost time. So again, I think that, thanks for being a leader with something that's really important to recognize yourself and how small changes can really make a big impact. So
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That has been very exciting. I've been, observing in classrooms, and you can see these little first graders talking about perseverance and talking like what it is, how they used it in the lesson. And it just goes from year to year to year to year. And one of the things that's very cool, there's an opportunity for like service-related projects that come at the end of their module. They do 4 modules over the course of the year, and I just saw it in first grade classroom. They were developing, it was a maker mission that they had, and what they decided to do was research how to make American Sign Language cards for different parts of their building. But it was incredible when they were going through their process of this is what we need. This is how we collaborated on that. Some really just very, very, very cool things that, and to see them like trenched in that literacy, in that oral discourse, and having them do the writing, but also like owning what they did and feeling so good about it has been very cool. It's a very interesting little like spin on it.
Sure.
I'm seeing some really tremendous things that make you feel good.
that's great. Thanks
Yeah.
very much.
Thank
Thank you both for the presentation. Yes, it was a lot, but I think that it encompassed a lot, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
There's a lot to be proud of there.
Yeah, there
I
really
think it's so easy sometimes to get bogged down in the day-to-day and but there's so much good happening.
Thank you.
Just a quick question before I have my longer question. For Erica, the EL. Erin, I'm
That's
so
okay.
sorry.
You're totally fine.
Just call her Gladys.
For the ELA component, does the assessment piece of EL replace the STAR test?
No, so the EL education is the curriculum, but they don't have a screener. Do you know what I mean? Like there are there are little assessments that students take to place them into this appropriate places in skills block. Some of it has become, it's a little bit redundant, and we're feeling our way through that. Like, is there a way, do we need to do both? But the state requires us in kindergarten to grade 3 to use a DESE approved screener. So the M class is going to certainly remain. So while iReady has the curriculum, the diagnostic, EL education doesn't look that same exact way. There are many assessments that are built into it, but not that type, not that diagnostic type of assessment. So while there are a lot of parallels, there are also some really significant differences between the curriculum as well.
Thank you. And again, thank you for your presentation. Very impressive data. And as you said, it's a piece of the pie.
Right.
And it's an internal view. And so just to follow up, at our October 14th meeting, Dr. Teller had given us a presentation on MCAS, and we had requested, hopefully by the end of this year, a follow-up that gives more comparative data. And so I'm hoping that perhaps we could, if it's possible, tie in how this growth connects to external data for the MCAS. And I'd also like to request that the DESE accountability report, which factors in MCAS and student growth, be part of that presentation. So I'm hoping that we'll get that presentation at, I don't know how many meetings we have in December, probably just one, but we did request that by the end of the year. So I'm hoping that we can hear more about that. Thank you.
Chris?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Karen and Aaron, for your presentation. Yeah, kind of just piggybacking off of what Katrina and Mike had asked. You know, I'm just curious about, you know, kind of the percentage of iReady students statewide and how that compares to all students statewide, just to get an idea of how that compares.
And so I will, you know, certainly look at that. I was just thinking as you were asking the question again that I was just at a DESE Math Leaders Network meeting this past Thursday. And it brings together math leaders from, you know, around the state, whatever. And what it was interesting, and again, it's purely anecdotal, is in one of our sessions, I was sitting with a group of other colleagues, elementary, you know, people with like jobs like mine. We all used iReady at the table because, like, I said something and somebody else was showing something. We had to work on a joint project and whatever. And what we realized is we all used iReady together. So I don't have exact numbers, but anecdotally, random, I was with these 7 or 8 people from different districts. They all used iReady.
Okay.
So just as like a anecdotal, it's quite. They've got a pretty good piece of the market here.
Sure. Thank you. And let's see what I was thinking of here. You know, kind of piggybacking on Mike, I feel like it would be extremely helpful to kind of see, it seems like it's just a great comparative tool. So kind of seeing how, you know, we have 4 different elementary schools. I would love to see how each elementary school kind of compares to each other in terms of growth. And, you know, one question I had related to, you know, kind of comparing our high need students with our general education students. And, you know, if our, you know, for maybe like the same cohort, if our general education students are performing well, but our kind of special education students are not, is there a way of how they are assisted to be able to keep up with their cohort? Or, you know, like, are they able to, like, let's say if they are 3 grades behind their current level and their cohorts are at that level and then moving up, do they stay back? You know, almost a comparison of how the data here compares to kind of like the new grading situation, like how that kind of correlates between, like, the high performing, are they kind of, you know, kind of the higher level meeting expectations moving up, whereas kind of students who aren't performing as well, if they're kind of on the lower end, and how that kind of
So I think
works.
one of the shifts we've been trying to make in the last year, I don't know if this exactly answers your question, but this is kind of what's coming to mind, is oftentimes our struggling learners, we spend so much time intervening that they don't always get tier one. They're grade level standards. And at some point, this isn't gonna catch them up. This is important, the intervening. But through our work with MTSS and the training we've had recently on UDL, there's been a real focus on a solid tier one. And now we have a math program and an ELA program that are both high quality instructional material. And we've designed these schedules so that our neediest kids are in for tier one. Katie Novak, who's somebody we've done a lot of training with, one of her favorite lines is, you can't intervene your way out of a weak tier one, right? All the intervention in the world is not gonna, right? So that's really been a focused shift. So it's getting to that, what are we doing for those students? And that's part of it, is really solidifying our tier one, creating schedules that allow them to be part of that. And then also providing within that schedule a time for that intervention. So, does that?
Yeah, no, that definitely
Yeah,
helps. I mean,
okay.
I would love to, I know we have a packed schedule, so, at some point, it would be great to kind of hear more about kind of what the intervention, or not intervention, but just what the kind of strategies are for addressing kind of our higher need students, since it's so really interesting.
It is.
to know.
Those will be very cool charts to see next year after we've gone through like an entire year of like having like, those schedules that support students being in tier one, right? And having them receive like those supports at like more opportune times.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? That's a very cool way to look at it.
Yeah.
I feel like it'll be
Yeah, it
nice
will
to
be.
see that side by side next year.
Great, thank you.
That's great.
One more question, for students that it might be difficult for them to kind of do diagnostics or they're learning on a screen, are there options where they are able to learn or do the diagnostics without using a screen? Are there kind of accommodations for that, or?
Not for IRA, I can speak to IRA, you can't speak to M-Class. Because the diagnostic is adaptive, it's not a paper and pencil test.
Gotcha.
We do use, if a student has MCAS accommodations in an IEP or in a 504, we honor those through the diagnostic. So whether it's small group testing, one-on-one, we can turn read aloud on for a math student so that they're getting it read to them. So we do accommodate them. The diagnostic piece is that like, this is how iReady in math is whittling it down to exactly what a student's strengths and weaknesses are by throwing a bunch of different things in a very logical way kind of at them. So you wouldn't have that adaptability, paper and pencil.
It's kind of learning as
It's right. So I put an answer in, I answer a question on this domain. It's going to give me another harder one. Well, at some point it's going to stop. I'm going to not be able to answer those. So that's going to be kind of my ceiling for that domain, and then it's going to move on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the test is pretty much made up of 50% things the kids are going to know and 50% they're not going to know.
Okay.
It's amazing at how they can pinpoint exactly what skills kids can and can't do, and then, which we didn't really even get into, and then offer what to do about it. Lessons, small group lessons, online tutorials, like it's amazing. So, yeah.
And then for literacy in K to 3, like 90% of the assessments are administered one-to-one. So the teacher, right, is sitting, with the student. The only exception there would be the maze, which is just like a 3-minute time, like kind of fill in the blank activity. And then I mean, but with that being said, like for students who have maybe like issues with attention, that type of thing,
Right.
like I'm thinking of my youngest, for example, great reader. His rate is always never quite where it needs to be because he's looking around thinking about, so those are things that happen, but the difference is that teachers can observe those behaviors as it's happening. And sometimes you look at a score and say, this child is reading, is doing tremendous work, but we know their profile, right? So that's how it's a piece of data. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that is something that we deal with in classrooms all the time, right? We just say, oh gosh, this child started telling me a story in the middle of this timed, we had 1 minute to read this. So those are just kind of like things that we have to take into consideration when we're analyzing the data.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay.
One last question. Do parents get kind of almost like the MCAS score? Do they get kind of a printout of like how their child is doing growth-wise, just so they can think, oh, okay, let me try and work more on this? Or I was just curious if
We haven't used what's available at this point. It's hard, like,
it's more kind of teacher-based.
yeah, they really are. And teachers are sharing that with parents. There are some teachers that kind of have their own little form that they send home. A lot of the teachers do the data chats with the kids, so the kids are bringing it home. We are sitting with the kids saying, look how you did, this is your growth, this is your goal, and then through conferencing and things like that. It's like, there is a family report, to be quite honest with you. I don't, as a mother, if I didn't have the context or the kind of what I do know, I think it would be very confusing. And sometimes those scores out of context can be unsettling.
Right.
And I think we do a good job at getting the information to families in other ways.
Sure.
So in kindergarten through grade 3 for reading, we're actually required by the state now to send, it doesn't have to be in the form of a report from MClass, but some sort of a notification saying that their student is well below. So what you saw like in those red zones, we are required to communicate that.
Gotcha.
And so we haven't gone beyond that for the reasons that Karen just alluded to, but it's something that we're always talking about and thinking about. I was recently in a parent meeting with one of our principals where they were like, oh, we would have really loved to have that. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like there's certainly room for that, but perhaps like some parent education, first would be really important so that we make sure that everyone really understands like what it is that we're sending home. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Sorry, didn't mean to take up so much time.
I don't have anything. That's what happens when you go last.
No, I'm last.
Thank you, that was great.
Great.
So I was, yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, Terry still
What?
has to go.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, I was just making another joke, but.
Oh.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Really good information.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Review and discuss Lawrence School grade configuration.
Okay, so I'd just like to acknowledge we have Principal Bushy, Principal Adams, and Principal Polka and with us tonight. And while they're transitioning up to the table, please, as part of this conversation, I'd just first like to let the school committee know I really appreciate the thoughtful conversations, the time you're taking, requests for more information, to say that, that first presentation we did on the great configuration was a lot of information. And so breaking it down again, focusing tonight on just the 5th grade. And then in December, we'll focus on the 8th grade. Could be helpful just to help continue to have conversations. These conversations are happening across Massachusetts, across the country. And we're seeing declining enrollment everywhere. And so some of these changes are necessary. And I just want to, again, say I appreciate the thoughtful conversations. Just briefly to get us focused, I just, again, want to say there are no wrong answers. 5th grade into elementary is perfectly acceptable. 5th grade into middle school is perfectly acceptable. As far as the curriculum and pedagogy, it's not about the location, it's about how teachers teach in their classrooms. It's, as far as licensure, there are, we've learned that there's, DESI's offering many licensures now. And even if they weren't, you can still have different licenses in one building. The building doesn't dictate what the licensures are. And I think most importantly is that whether fifth grades in the elementary or fifth grades in the middle school, the achievement outcomes, that location or that grade configuration doesn't really dictate what the outcomes are. With that said, and I should mention the social emotional because we talked a lot about that as well. And it's really more about the supports that are put in place, and that's what we heard, and we do have really good, strong supports. So really, then it makes a difference, so what's the better choice for us, right? And so just looking at what the history has been, with fifth grade already being out of elementary, you're really adding that seventh grade. One of the concerns that I've heard is, well, what's the structure going to be? And so when you think about it, within a building, you can have multiple structures. So fifth grade could look like fifth grade does now, and seventh grade could look like what seventh grade does. They all could look differently. They could all be, the same, right? And that really would be the next step, where administrators and teachers, with the input, hearing the input from families, would really determine what they think the best structure, whether it's teaming or individual classes or teamings in 2 or teaming in 5, what that would look like. And that can all happen in different buildings. And that's whether fifth grade went back, because one of the concerns was, would fifth grade go back to being a self-contained if it went into elementary? Well, it doesn't have to, right? It could, doesn't have to. But the same is, would sixth grade look like what seventh and eighth grade does? And it could, but it doesn't have to. It can look exactly the way it is. And so I just wanted, I'm not sure that we really focused on that piece of it that has come up, so I wanted to share that. But at this point, my team, my entire team's here. Ask any questions that you may have, or you guys can start out a little bit if you want. But I just wanted to give us this opportunity to hear more and discuss more.
This side starts, okay.
Can I just ask a quick question? So I hadn't really thought about what the structure would look like, and that it could be split in a building, that it could look different for fifth grade than seventh grade. So coming back, I think off of Glenda's comment, last meeting, or about how this is just a lot of these pieces fall in this muddy area for us of whether or not it's in our purview or out of our purview. Yeah. So those conversations about that, is that something that we have a role in, or would that be an administrative decision, or do we not know?
Administrative, it's administrative decisions with the input of, their staff, obviously, and then, and certainly through this several-year process that we're going to take, getting that input from families as well. The decision has to be made so that the teams can go off and work on what that looks like.
So we would, okay,
but understanding that any of that's possible, right? I think that was just one of the questions that had come up that I don't know that we had answered before, and just wanted to there's, lots of schools across Massachusetts that have both fifth grade in elementary and fifth grade in middle, and there's lots of them that have, all kind of, whether it's 4-7, 4-8, 5-6, 5-8, 5-7, and they do have different structures within a building. All of that exists. All of that is true, and all are successful or not, but it doesn't have to do with whether the structure.
I hadn't even thought of it, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Chris?
So it sounds like with community input, we would be deciding, and correct me if I'm misinterpreting this, so does that mean we would be waiting for community input to decide the configuration? Or no, we would be looking to decide the configuration before,
I don't want to determine whether you want or not want more information on the configuration. What I was saying, the structure within that building really then lies on the administrators.
Right,
Yeah,
right, okay.
okay, yeah, that's what I was trying to separate.
Gotcha. So the structure would just depend on what we decide in terms of fifth moving down or eighth moving, okay. I mean, you should come back to me because I think I just lost what I was talking about.
Linda, yes?
Well, where are we coming down on community input? We talked about having workshops. Are we? I guess I'm still wondering where we are in that process, because as you were saying, are we thinking that we're going to take a vote without that, or are we going to ask for that? Are we going to have a workshop? I would say I would be for having a workshop to hear that. That's my comment.
I was going to say something, I usually don't speak till the end, but, talking about Kelly said, and Glenda said, where are we in this process? We're in the process of listening to all sides of the equation, and the where people go, the structure and everything. I think parents and teachers, that's their level. That's another thing that I think we're missing that I thought would be included. So maybe I can make a suggestion as a chairman. This isn't what you usually do when you're commenting, that we set aside January as, our individual workshops to get, like the parents would say, okay, what part of the building my kid's gonna go in? I mean, they're envisioning things that we don't know either, that we need principals to not talk to us, but to talk to the, so I'm hoping principals, you're gonna give them a bonus pay, right, if they go and do all those workshops?
Are you approving that?
Yeah, I'm approving it. Yeah, can we approve that? No. I mean, that would be helpful if the parents, if some of the principals would go to the workshops, and those are the kind of specific questions we don't know, and we don't even know what to ask. That's the thing. So that's where I hope we would move from here. I'm sorry, did I butt anybody out? Too bad. Go ahead. Listen.
So are you, are you gonna go across and ask the questions in order like that, or do you want us to put any input in at any point? Or is everything open?
We get muddled when we have these discussions, don't we? We get muddled, and the most efficient way to do it. So, Stephen, if you have something to say, please.
Well, I've been kind of thinking a little bit about this, and I think some of the things that come up, like you just mentioned, a parent forum, but it's also, we need to know the configuration piece first, to then, well, hear me out, in a little bit to know what those things are going to look like. So, we can't tell you what grade configuration to pick, but we can tell you that if we were K-5, we're open to this. Or if it's 8th grades at the high school, 5, 6, 7s at Lawrence, we're open to anything. Because I can speak for experience. I've worked in a building that was 5 through 8. That building had, in 5th grade, they were in teams of 2, 14 sections of teams of 2. The other part of the building was the 6th grade wing, some teams of 2, some teams of 4, where they departmentalized the classes, right? And then I worked in Morse Pond for a long time, where you had some teams of 2, some teams of 4, those systems worked well because that building was able to decide what to do with the grades. Some of those questions, like where would 5th grade be? I almost think we're speculating on questions that don't need to be answered yet because we don't know where they're at, where they're going to be. We could talk, it's almost like when we have these safety conversations and all those what ifs come up, like we could talk what ifs all day about security, but so, like for instance, I was and then in Mashpee I was in a 3 through 6th grade school, and that was different as well. 5th grade was, so every grade level within the building had a different format. they all worked in their own way. You know, I think, I don't have an opinion as to where we should land with the configurations, but I know that if fifth grade was for 6, 7, and 8, there'd be benefits for them. You know, fifth graders compared to 10 years ago are ready to fly a little bit more than they were 10 years ago. So putting them with an older student population might benefit them to grow. Same thing with the high school students in 8th grade. You've got people that are, you know, in the arts or some of the fine arts where they can take their art, they can be in the band because they're in the building. You've got kids that can take different classes in high school because they're there, whether sometimes, you know, we actually had, in Hannibal, we had a student that walked over to the high school for her accelerated math classes, but, you know, if that person was at the high school, they could have it. So the benefits are all around. I think we might be muddying the waters trying to get into too many specifics, and we don't know what the configurations are. And there is that administrative power, like, you know, there's a trust in all of our administrative people, you know, whereas I'm new to this role of administration, I have vast experiences. You're gonna trust us to make the best decision within our team, within our school community on some of those answers. So, I hope that's helpful, or an interesting perspective anyway.
Okay. Liz?
So I appreciate, Stephen, your comments on we really need to know the configuration first. Before you spoke, I was going to say something similar in that I feel like there's a lot of fear and apprehension right now because parents don't know where their kids are going to be, so they don't know where their worry is. Are they worried? However it shakes out, 8th at the high school, 5th to stay at the elementary level. I feel like anticipation is the worst of a lot of situations, and not just in this instance, but especially for parents when you get their children involved. So Terry, I like your idea of, you know, having January be maybe workshops, listening sessions, whatever you want to call them. I am all for that, but I think that we need to make a decision because we owe it to the families and the staff and the students. Because again, I feel like anticipation is killing us here. So I'm happy to support a listening January at whatever. But that's my thought on that.
Yeah, Tom, Tim, Steve, thank you for coming. I wish I had questions for all of you, so you would have a reason to be here, but I have no questions for you. I apologize. The one thing I will say, and I understand what Chris and Glenda say about the listening sessions prior to voting on this, and I understand what Steve had gotten to regarding they can't make decisions until we have that decision. That all being said, in the community, I have heard a lot of people, every person I've talked to for the most part, has asked for K through 5. They don't want the 8th at the high school. And the reason for that is different, but a lot of the reasons are, and I've said this before, they don't want their 8th grade child at the high school level. I personally, I think that 5th grade would work fine at the elementary school. If we had a vote tonight, that's what I would be going to. And wait, there's something else I want to say. Did that. Oh yeah, Dr. Dorr had said there's no wrong reason, no wrong answer to either of these. And with that being said, because the only people who've spoke to me have pretty strongly said not to put 8th grade at high school, that's how I would vote if we had to vote. But if we could actually have more of those listening sessions to get to that point where we all feel comfortable voting one way or the other. And again, I'm not against 8th to the high school or whatever we all decide, but I'm just saying that the community input to me has been overwhelmingly 5th, the elementary school. I remember what it was. I don't know how that would work with K through 5 with the spacing and all of that stuff. So I think that we kind of have to look into that, or if 8th went to the high school, where that would go. But I would wholeheartedly support some listening sessions and then give the community an opportunity to come and speak, and then that would be it, then we can decide something. And again, I've also said that I don't think we need to do this until the MSBA thing comes out.
Thank you for coming. I sort of mistakenly thought that there was going to be something you would say first and then we would ask questions, so I apologize that we're doing it this way. I realize these are questions maybe you can't answer, but from your opinion, your experience, do you, as a collective or individually, feel that there's, that moving all 5th graders into the K through 4 buildings, if there were only 3 of them, do you feel like that would work? And I know that 2 of you are not in those buildings, so perhaps it's just a question for you, Stephen. Space-wise and like vibes.
I cannot know the exact numbers of space, but knowing that the research that I've heard and Dr. Doyle share with us in our administrative council meetings, there's enough space in all the buildings to do that. And I think that there's enough, there's many rooms in each building, at least in my building, I know that could be transferred to another class, not extra, another, a classroom that's probably being used for something else right now that isn't a classroom. There'd be space for that person that's in there now to be used elsewhere. Plus, you can figure some of those services or some of those things are gonna be moved around based on the number of grades in there. And, I assume that when we're talking about going to the 3 buildings, like you said, there will be a redrawing of the attendance lines as well. So that's going to change, not change, it's going to dictate the spacing and the numbers, but for every intents and purposes I've heard as far as the NASDAQ report and so forth, that the elementary schools can handle that.
So if you had like an influx of a quarter of all 5th graders tomorrow in your building, you feel like that would, you can picture it?
Yes.
I guess a question for you, Principal Adams, excuse me. Last time you came in and spoke to us, you mentioned that the 5th grade students feel really small to you when they first arrive on campus, and that they seem really young, and there's like extra shepherding that has to happen for them as they enter Morse Pond, and they need extra supports to know how to get between classrooms. I'm wondering, for the 2 of you, do you have opinions about the developmental readiness of 5th graders, and whether you personally have opinions about whether it's better for them, since you work with them? Is it more beneficial? I hear the argument about they can push themselves and maybe like model the older students, and I understand that, but is there something also to be said, in your opinion, about giving them extra time to grow and develop and be ready to navigate the halls with 5th through 7th graders?
I don't know that an extra year in a self-contained elementary school would necessarily solve that challenge in and of itself. I started my teaching career in a K through 5 building, so we did have the 5th grade included. When a transition happens, it happens, and you have to support kids when they come to a new level in new buildings, whether that's going to be a 5th grader new to a new building, or it will be 6th grade. That's going to be something we have to plan for. It's a either way. I think developmentally, kids, it's hard to pin them down and say they're at this level altogether in 1 year. They range, and each cohort's different. So, on the one hand, like I might get a year, Morse Pond in 5th grade, they seem kind of young. That could be different next year. That next group of 5th graders can have an entirely different character. So to say, does that solve the transition problem in and of itself by putting them with K through 4? Not really. I think we're going to have to solve, and have a good plan for how we transition between buildings, no matter what grades they're in. I think, as Dr. Doyle said, I don't think there's really a wrong answer for how you do that.
I hear that. Yeah.
Sorry.
So go ahead.
Well, I just was going to say, so the other side of it, coming up, if it's a
sixth graders coming in, just like our seventh graders now. It takes them extra time to get them accustomed to the building. If it was fifth graders coming in, same thing, but like Steve was saying before, you know, once the decision's made, we'll start planning on, you know, how to make it happen.
Well, I think the exciting part of this opportunity that we have in Falmouth is that not only are we talking about the configuration, I think the advantage we have right now that other districts may not is that we're also getting to plan space. You know, we have a blank slate for what that space can be. Oftentimes in districts, they're making this sort of a shift into an existing building and having to compromise, big and small, as to how you can do things because of what the space dictates. We now get the opportunity to say, if we want to have, you know, fifth and sixth look like they do now in Morse Pond and teams, we do that, and then seventh would transition, for instance, to an individual schedule like they have now, maybe in a slightly modified form. We could decide that, so that they then are ready to transition to eighth grade and high school, if that's how it's configured. So I think that's just something to keep in mind, is that we're also going to get the advantage of designing the space around whatever the decision ends up being, to account for those, you know, how we want to do things that fit the students where they are. That's just a good opportunity we have here in what we're saying.
That's a good point, thank you.
Yeah.
Just a couple more sort of feeling questions.
Sure.
When we think about moving eighth grade up into the high school, do you think that moving that whole cohort of eighth graders, is that a significant enough number of students? And I realize we don't have the principal of the high school here, but when you picture the eighth grade as a whole, and you're probably more familiar with the inside of the high school and how it feels, it's been described as half empty, ghost towny, would moving an entire one grade fix that problem? Would it make it feel significantly different? Do you have any thoughts about that?
My inkling is that it would make a significant difference. I don't think that we would see the same kind of dip in enrollment from 8 to 9 as we would if the 7 to 8 was going to the high school. Does that make sense? I don't know if I said that properly, but I mean, it would be, you guys have seen the numbers, it would be an additional 220 human beings going into the building, you know, compared to what the last several years we've seen go into that building from 8 to 9. It'd be bigger than that number. So yes, would it fill it? Or, I mean, it's probably a matter of perspective, but I think it would certainly get to some of the concerns about the high school's overall enrollment and participation in activities. And oh, I forgot to say, some of the law school students now compete with the Regal Eagles. So that was something, when that came up earlier, I didn't want to jump in, but we do have some kids going over there competing. Did that answer?
Yeah, no, that was very helpful, thank you. And I'm sure the high school principal would have had something else also to say, but.
I just want to remind everyone that we're going to focus on
Yeah,
the
no,
eighth grade.
of course,
So you will have the,
yes.
And actually,
That wasn't meant as a
Tom's going to come
criticism
back
of-
in
that-
December.
yeah.
So he'll be there for that discussion too. But I don't care that you ask the questions. I just want to let you know that
No.
you're going to have an opportunity
That's
to
great.
talk to them.
That was not meant as a criticism of the panel we have tonight. That's just, I recognize that you're not working in the high school, that's all. So from a curriculum standpoint, we've heard that it doesn't really matter which way you go. Do you, again, have opinions based on your experience teaching about whether it's easier? There was some, I wish I had the presentation with me, the printout, the bullet points when I went through them during our initial meeting to discuss this. It seemed to me, looking at it, that you really could go either way, the way it's been said, and that the points for 8th grade going up are the same basically as the points for 5th grade staying down. When it comes to incorporating K through 5 under one curriculum, it wouldn't be under the same, but having that be a curriculum bubble versus having 5th, 6th, 7th, is there something clunky about 5th, 6th, 7th, or easier about keeping 5th under the elementary bubble umbrella? However you want to say that.
Pretty neutral, really. I mean, one would be harder than the other, really. There's differences in each grade level. The one, not so much a curriculum aspect, but looking at K through 5 as an elementary configuration, if that were to be the decision. The other factor that goes into that would be scheduling. some share spaces like the cafeteria and recess, we have an additional grade to accommodate in those spaces. How many lunch waves, how many of those seems like small things, but that's part of the elementary schedule, the specials, how those rotate, you can rotate through the whole additional grade level, so we just have to account for that. The curriculum piece, not so much so, I think there's always gonna be a dividing point. We have great oversight, we're really lucky in this district for the amount of curriculum leadership we have that helps us with alignment, and smoothing that out so that we are, whether we divide it 5 or divide it 4, to go up to the building, it really didn't matter.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing as Sam, you said the building management, general spacing, scheduling, lunch waves, that those types of decisions, I think it can totally work. But I also, like Tim said, we have a really outstanding team in the Office of Teaching and Learning that's likely better to answer the questions about like the overall curriculum, how it could fit with licensure pieces. So, sorry if I'm deferring to Dr. Taylor.
But I think even as to what we just heard from Erin and Karen prior to this, is both of our math and our language arts curriculums are up until 6th grade. So regardless of kind of either where you put them, they'd be within the curriculum and that expertise. And the building building considerations that I just mentioned, the lunches, is huge. Like for instance, for me, at Teaticket, we have a 0.6 librarian and a 0.8 art teacher. So one of my biggest challenges.
What does that mean? I'm so sorry. What does that mean?
So what our art teacher works 4 days a week, and our librarian teacher works 3 essentially, 60% of the week, right? So that was one of my biggest challenges was developing a schedule that would be equitable throughout the specialist teachers to accommodate all those special classes. So I have 3 specialists that work 5 days a week. So if I had more students in the building, say 3 sections of 5th grade, that would have been a moot point. The schedule would have been very easier to navigate, right? Whereas those open spots that were created by not having the additional time, those teachers there would be filled. And it's hard to explain if I didn't have numbers to show you. For instance, some days I'd have holes in the schedule where they weren't equitable because we have 3 sections of kindergarten.
An odd number of sections.
And then the time spacing, I know we can accommodate more lunchtime, but that brings in the hours that the staff and the food service department works and things like that. But it's all doable within the parameters of our buildings and our skills with the knowledge of what's going to happen, right?
Okay, thank you. Sorry, last question. Do you feel as a group that it would be beneficial before making a decision to have any more input from the community? Would that be, do you think, a good idea, or do you feel like there's enough information and expertise? I realize that's like a personal feeling question.
I think whatever the group decides is best.
Or I guess, I'm so sorry, can I just add one thing to that? I guess what I'm really wondering with that question is, have you received feedback from the parents and the family members at your schools that leads you to think that they would like to have an opportunity to chime in on that?
I can't say I've had a lot of family members reach out. The family members that are having the kids at the school now know that when this is all done, their kids are going to be down the road. But if family members have reached out, I've counseled them to reach out to Dr. JICA and school committee. So some of the people who have reached out to you may have come to myself or other principals and been redirected without saying, I talked to Tom, he said to reach out to you. So if someone asked me on my way out of here, I would say, you should really reach out to Dr. JICA and the school committee. They've both been steadfast in saying that they want community input on this. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It's a weird question.
It's not a weird question at all. I probably am not answering it properly.
thank you.
I can't say that I've received a parent feedback in favor of one model or the other. We discussed it with school council. But again, context is important. When they're already here at North Pond in 5th grade, they're looking ahead. So the discussion that we had was what the 8th grade component would look like. Because they've already made a transition. We're thinking about the elementary buildings necessarily. So that's it. And even that amount of feedback is small. And, it's not something I've received emails about or direct phone calls to me asking about this question.
Okay, thank you.
I've had significant input from staff wishing to be heard a little bit more and have a little bit more input in the process. But again, I'm on 3 months or 4 months there. As far as parental input or anything like that, I have received very little. What I feel like, well, and I can only speak to my school in particular, is the anxiety over not knowing what's going to happen and what building is going to be closed, for lack of a better term, if that's what it comes down to. And I think it stems from the situation last year, and that's where a lot of the anxiety is carried over, I would say. But I don't receive any questions about it by email or directly from many parents. But as I've had some people who thought that they would like some more input as far as, on their educational, professional expertise about that. And I think that if you're looking at doing a community forum month or things like that, that would be an opportunity to bring those staff members that feel like they would like to be part of a group like that. And I can't, like, I won't say or delineate whether that, I feel like they haven't had the input, I just feel like that's the feedback I've had, I think there's been significant, being a citizen, not an employee last year of the town, I felt like there was a number of listening sessions and a number of aspects that people speak up. So what kind of redundancy are we going to have, and how is that going to affect the efficiency of the process going forward to do that? But yes, I have had feedback from people that have no input.
Thank you. I would expect that more from the K-4 crowd versus, Thank you. Thank you for answering all my questions.
Margaret?
Yeah, first of all, I want clarification. Kelly, and did you say that the configuration is your administrative decision or our decision?
The configuration, whether it's going to be 5, 6, 7, or 6, 7, 8, is the school committee's decision.
Okay, that's what I
Yes, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear.
Yes. What I heard, so I wanna
But
make
the
sure.
structure, how the school runs, is the principals and the teachers.
Yeah, your responsibility, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna repeat myself a little bit, but then I have lots of questions for the three of you, okay? Good, I'm glad you're all here. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for it? Okay, well, first I'm gonna repeat myself. I believe that no matter what decision we make, it is going to be successfully handled, okay? I also know that there are some students who, in 5th grade, will be well able to move into a middle school. And there will be some who will have a hard time, okay? The one thing I want to say, and I want to, before I go to the questions, is I think one of the important things that really needs to happen, and I don't mean we do it today or next month or whatever, the most important thing for any of this reconfiguration is the planning it is going to take from the administrative team, to the principals, to the teachers, to make it work. And if we do not give you folks enough time to do that, the problem that will happen will not be your fault, it will be our fault. And I think we all need to hear that. Okay, so now my questions. Okay. What would be, Steve, what would be your, and it's interesting, I'm glad I heard you say you've taught in different configurations. What would be the challenges to you if in fact the 5th grade were to move into your school, into elementary school?
I don't think there'd be any challenge.
Okay, you don't think there'd be any challenge?
I mean, I think the challenge would be with the staff that are moving from a different configuration, making sure that they're supported, prepared, they have the materials, they need, logistics around making that happen. I mean, like, you know, that's, I think that would be, I think it would be more the adult, making sure we support the adult and the personnel that it takes. But I don't see, you know, again, can be naive or overly optimistic, because that's how I am. I don't see many challenges with that.
Okay.
You know, developing, you know, I'm not a schedule person, I have to, you know, be honest that I, you know, I don't look, some people can look at a schedule and build it in a second, and it takes me, you know, 3 weeks. Or some people can, you know, also building a schedule will be something that'll have to change, but it would certainly doable. You know, there's so many hours in the day, there's minutes of people that they have to meet, and there's people places they need to go. You know, so I don't really see any huge challenges about that. Yeah, but then you're looking at changing a dynamic, like I said, it's an adult challenge. You're looking at changing the dynamic of a staff and a building. But you know, it's going to happen in whether it's at my building or Tom's building or Alan's building, you know, or Tim's building, right? Yeah, well, not yet.
Okay. You know, and I want to go back to what Kelly said in the previous meeting, where in fact, 5th grade is already in middle school. And it was misunderstood last time when I said we'd be demoting them. I know we're not demoting any individuals, we're demoting a whole class to return them to elementary school. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, I'm just saying that that's what we're doing. And so Tim, you really come from North Falmouth as well as being at the middle school. So you have sort of good understanding, I would think, of both of those.
Yeah.
So when you think about 5th grade going back, being put back to elementary school, from your experience, can you sort of talk about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's.
Particularly now that you've already had them in middle school.
Right. I guess it's a little tricky because I never saw them included.
Sure.
At least in this town. Previous teaching experience I have, it's a while ago now, but the more grade levels you're trying to service at one time, especially when there's a lot of that rapid development that happens from what they are in kindergarten, even to 4th grade. There's a lot of growth and change, and social development happens. So I think having another grade on top of that, you know, we have to be mindful how that's gonna look and how we support them. And the schedule will be a big part of that, you know, lunches and recess opportunities. It's a wide developmental span to have under one grade. But there's I think advantages to that too, and there's challenges to that. So it would be complicated, but I think it would be successful if we did it. I think just some of the challenge I look at would be, you know, compromising. At any one of our schools in elementary, looking at where the enrollment would be, say you have 3 sections at 5th, in each of the 3 buildings maybe, fewer opportunities for team teaching, and with the spaces accommodate a team approach like we have now that supports that, I think is really beneficial for 5th grade, that you would get a new building that would be designed to do that. So Steve's building had maybe 2 sections in 5th grade, and you have a lower cohort come through. There's only those 2 teachers, and maybe that's not as successful a team combination, for instance, or it just doesn't, you wouldn't have anything to do about that. You're locked into that building and how many students are in it. In a bigger setting, we might have 6 sections altogether. We could have 2 3-person teams, you could have 3 2-person, right? You've got more options that way. More sections just gives you more options. That's the compromise you have in the situation. Curriculum-wise, I could see it fitting seamlessly. Teachers teach what they have, and then they become their department essentially. Right? But it'd be those other opportunities that we lost if we were to shape the first
Okay, I'm going to continue with you.
Fire away.
Oh, good. And actually, when we were at the at Morris, when the 5th grade came in, I was like, oh my God, they are so tiny. But I'd like you to tell me what are the strengths that you've seen when the 5th graders go into middle school?
The big one I see right off within the first month, the increased social connections that they're able to access. I think they get to see the entire town, they're ready for that. Oftentimes, they've been in activities that span different schools, like they know some teammates from this, or members of their scout troop from over here that go to a different school. And where their social skills are, they're ready to broaden that and have the full breadth of what our town has available to them. And to have friends from all across the community. That's such an amazing thing that happens in the first month or two. So from, see where they sit at lunch, you can tell where their elementary school board. It doesn't stay that way for very long. And sometimes it's, they're on a team together and they bring in the third friend. And now it really starts to blend in. And they become, they really start to view themselves as a class. When we actually had our community meeting this year for 5th grade, I did say, it kind of struck me at the time, I don't know why I didn't say this a couple of years ago, but I said, look around. Look to your left, look to your right. This is your graduating class for the first time sitting together. And I don't think they'd ever thought about that. It's now a collective we. And I think emotionally, they're ready for that. And they see, this is kind of exciting. All of us, and some of them I don't even know yet. When they're younger, their world's a little smaller. They're still developing that, the social skills to take advantage of a wider group of them. But they're absolutely, very early on in the year, they're ready to make those things. That's a powerful thing that happens when you get together like that. And they're still young enough where I think the aspect of play, kind of reading up on that a lot lately, that's still a component of their school day that we have at Morse Pond and would have in a 5-7 building as well, that they're able to kind of mix socially with each other in that very play-like fashion that I think accelerates those connections in a larger group. That if they didn't come up until 6th grade might be a little more challenging because as development goes on, play looks different. Social interactions can be different. So I think that's something I see as a strength of how we do things now.
And what would be the challenges? Or what have been the challenges when you've had, with the 5th grade moving up to middle school?
I really think they're not challenges the challenges that exist, I think would exist no matter which grade it is that would come up to us. It's just getting new students into a different setting with a different staff that hasn't happened before. It really comes down to that. The data that you heard earlier that we have available to us now, and the department structures we have, and the administrative support we have meetings, we learn a lot about the students, we send our staff out to visit their elementary schools and get to know them there and observe. They come to us. We do a lot, we can do more too. I got some great addition to my school council this past month about kind of a get to know you back to school kind of party I do. It really comes down to that. I don't think it doesn't matter what grade level that happens at, we're gonna have to go through that process of getting to know who they are. And the one thing when they're on paper and numbers, and we know a little bit about how they function socially, but when you put them all together for the first time, it's a whole new chemistry. So whether that happens in 5th or 6th, that's gonna happen, right? So those are really the core challenges, I think, of what we're doing now. But I don't think we can just state any one way.
Okay, a question I asked Alan, he sort of said, you can't know what's going to be difficulties. But I do know, we talked about the socio-emotional needs of students, I do know that, we tend to focus on those, and I know the teachers do. I've been very impressed with that. For students who move into the middle school for 5th grade, that may have a difficult time doing that, and I assume there are some. What supports specifically do you have now that help them?
So, just so I'm clear, like a child.
I'm sorry?
So I'm clear, a child who moves into Falmouth, brand new, they don't know anybody. How do we handle that?
No, I'm saying that when the 4th graders move up to 5th grade.
Existing students.
Okay, they've already been here.
Right.
But some of them socially may not be quite as sophisticated as others, okay? Because I did see this, some 5th graders were sort of big, a lot of them were.
Sure.
Okay, so if you have some that move from 4th grade to 5th grade, they're Falmouth people, or what supports do you have for those that are having a hard time with that? Or do you ever have anyone have a hard time with that move? And if you do, What are the supports you presently have now specifically to help them?
You know, biggest one comes from our counseling team and holding social groups. We meet weekly, so we hear input from teachers like who might have struggles like that. And just having the number of students we have, it turns out it's probably a commonality. There's probably a group that all would benefit from the same intervention, whether it's a lunch group together, that we can do with our counseling team, maybe focus specifically on helping them with more social connections because they might be more introverted. And turns out when they get to meet other kids who might be going through the same thing, they identify, and being in a group together can help. So I think a lot of that small groups, or often call it lunch groups, that happen throughout the day, that our counseling team does, and even our teaching team, it can pop up between the two classrooms that are teamed together, that because they can mix the kids fairly freely, they can create space and do some things just as teachers. Whether that's support the recess a little bit and helping them outside to make connections, facilitating a little. But I mean, those are things we do right now.
Okay.
We'll continue.
Can I add, I was just thinking along, when you asked me the challenges, I was picturing like what my challenges would be. But I was thinking some of the comments that we talked about with sections and so forth, and let me just ask Tim, made me think about the fact that like those some of those challenges we talked about, the social emotional challenges, identifying challenges, you know, finding people that are your kind of people and so forth. When it's like if the fifth grade did move down to let's say, I don't know the numbers, I had 3 sections at Teaticket in 5th grade. We're losing that ability to, maybe I haven't fit in with my friends here, I haven't made great friends here, or I wasn't comfortable with the group. I didn't see anyone that I could recognize as another peer or someone similar. But when you spread them out into 10 sections, or I'm speculating how many 5th grade classrooms there are, now you might have an opportunity from someone in North Falmouth that you never knew, that hey, you're like, and it could be as simple as, they fence and you fence, and
You go to the same church.
You like dragons, or I'm overly I'm glossing over it quickly, but even people that are having trouble identifying with who they are inside and what they feel like they need to portray about themselves are going to have more opportunity as a larger whole, like that class, that's your class, you're gonna see someone that you might navigate towards a lot sooner. And that's gonna be helpful social emotionally. Then you can have those lunch groups, then you can build upon those things. And so we're looking at that point, I think, but this is something pretty meaningful.
Thank you. Any of you can answer the question. I didn't mean to pick on Tim. No, and so thank you so much. But now I'm going to pick on Tom. Okay, so, and sort of the same questions.
Margaret, could we stop, because we're getting into mechanics, which I think, didn't we want just...
Well, I want to ask questions about the strengths and weaknesses, and I think that's important.
Okay. We will have more conversations, and we have, maybe I'm out of line here, but could we, because we are going to have more conversations in January, right? And, okay.
We can try to be more brief with our responses, I suppose. That's helpful.
Because Margaret, not to interrupt, but what I'm hearing you ask are questions that parents would gain a lot of taking their angst off of things.
And I'm going to be recorded and they can hear it. And that's why I'd like to finish with Tom.
Okay.
If that's okay with the committee.
She's last, right? She's the last person?
Yeah, Chris?
I did have a couple questions where I didn't really get a chance to speak with,
yeah.
but I like the questioning, and I think it would be very helpful, for someone in the public to they'd have to watch this video. I feel like the information that's kind of being presented here would be best distributed if it was something that was presented. I'm not looking for a presentation, but I feel like it would just be a better format for the public to hear. In terms of, it sounds like a lot for the pros versus cons of different.
I'm trying to say the cons and the pros, I was not trying to.
No, I'm not saying you're, but I feel like it's helpful information that, I feel like some committee members have asked for kind of the pros of moving 8th up, 5th down, pros of moving 5th up or down. And so, I think that additional kind of format would be very helpful, whether it's a future presentation or something, but sorry.
We are an hour and a half over our agenda time, and we all have, it's clear that we all have questions, continue to have questions. It's clear that the community continues to have questions. So supporting the idea of a workshop or some kind of informational forum in January, I think that is the best venue for us to ask our questions together, not just because we are an hour and a half over and we have still a full agenda.
Yeah. And can I just say one thing from regular, I have a template that I have to sign that MSBA puts out before they finally let loose with the money that says, show us a community forum. We haven't had one this year. So we really need to do that just for that. The other thing is too, we always got to remember that the reason MSBA does that is because we have to get the money to finish this project. Just because we get some from MSBA, we have a lot of money to get from the townspeople. And if people are happier, maybe they don't agree with your decision, but if they had some input. So I just think we need we have gotten a lot of input ourselves and we've asked questions, but I just really think we should put it to the public more.
Terry, can I just say one thing? That I think that we've had some great discussion here tonight, and there's been some amazing information that have come from our principals and some great questions that have come from our committee members. I don't know how, but I wish that we could have a fact sheet for the parents who, especially the parents that have continued to show up that aren't perhaps here tonight. I think that they would benefit from them. So looking forward to whatever January looks like, I hope that the, whatever we call it, I don't want to get caught up in the nomenclature, but whatever kind of meeting we have, that we are able to continue to have our questions and that the public can also ask questions as well. I don't want it to be, this is only for the school committee to ask, this is only for parents to ask. I just want like an open place that everybody can ask their questions. Anyway, that was my thoughts. I'm
With
sorry.
one topic.
Right now, the issue on the table is, I can finish asking my questions. We were here until 11:30 for a previous meeting. I'm sorry, but the questions for Tom are about 8th grade, 7th grade, and 6th grade in the middle school. And I would just like to ask him the following questions. And since people thought that some of those questions were valuable, I'm just asking to continue my question.
Did you say 6, 7, and 8?
Yeah.
But we're only supposed to be talking about 5th grade.
Well, I
tonight.
know, but.
So.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you should be able to ask all the questions you want in the world if we have a one-topic meeting. But this meeting has so many other topics on it, okay?
Are we talking about the next 8th grade?
We need to hear
in
about the
December?
budget, we need to hear about policies
No,
tonight.
Terry, I'm just saying, Lori, at our last meeting, you said that our next.
That was the plan.
Meeting in December, our next regular meeting, we would have a follow-up about 8th grade.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'd like to ask Tom about 5th grade then.
Okay.
Tom, since you're in the middle school, how do you feel about 5th graders moving into an environment that you're principal for?
5th graders are coming to law school, we would have time to plan something that would be accommodating to 5th graders.
Challenges?
Challenges would be planning for 5th graders coming.
So you need time to do that?
We need time to do that, absolutely.
Okay, and then the last thing is, I assume that you do have some students that move into Lawrence who have a difficult time. What are some of the supports you have for them that can help them to adjust to being in a new environment? And I know you won't know what would happen if you bring 5th grade in, but what are some of the supports you have presently that help students who have a difficult time, challenges moving into your school? And that's the last question.
So overwhelmingly, the feedback that we get from students when they come from grade 6 to 7, by the way, I think it's extraordinary that this group can say 6, 7, and you're not all.
Thanks, Tom, now you put it in our hands.
Now it's gonna start.
Sorry, to answer the question.
There goes the focus.
Overwhelmingly, the feedback is that the students enjoy the ability to move more throughout the day in like the sense of like a more more grown up responsibility from traveling from point A to point B and moving around the classroom. Now, if we were provisioning for grade 5, when we do that, we would probably not be planning for something as robust as the current 7th and 8th graders do. But grade 6, absolutely, and it's grade 5. Like kids were coming in that are reluctant or having a harder time with the transition. Some of the very same strategies that Tim referenced he uses. We also have, because we have a team structure and the teams meet at least once a week as a team, focusing on just the kids on that team. They are diligent in identifying the kid that is having a harder time, and the counselors are at that meeting as well with the team leader and the on-team teachers, so they are able to see a student like maybe even before we hear from the parent that parent or guardian student's having a tough time, and we'll work together to come up with some strategies to support the student. Work with the guidance team. There's a number of things that we can do to help accommodate kids right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I thank you all, and I've asked these questions because since we're making the decisions, I thought it was important for us to hear this information. Thank you.
Okay. Chris, can you?
I'll end it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'll try to.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
he didn't really ask a question, so I feel like it's
Excuse
fair
me,
if he wants to.
it's over.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thanks. All right, guys, thank you very much for coming and.
This is great, thank you.
That was very helpful.
Yeah.
Very informative.
Yeah. Too bad you have to do it a few more times, but that's okay. No.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
You don't get invited back for an encore, what kind of?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it won't be for us, you'll have a new audience, Tim. Okay. All right, so now we will have an update from Student Services.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about preschool, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that we're opening up our 10th classroom of preschool in January, and that's because we have that rolling admission based on student need. So we do have, we'll have an AM and a PM session, and currently we actually have, because the program is integrated, we've had our application process for peers, and we have 11 peers on the waiting list right now. So we will have a full program for, as we go into January. And then I just wanted to highlight some of our transition services. So for our students who are on IEPs, when they get to the age of 14, we begin to discuss their transition plans as they prepare for their futures. And we think about, education, training, employment, independent living. So I wanted to share about some of the programming that we offer for our students. So some of our students actually participate in a program at 4Cs called the Massachusetts Inclusive Higher Education Program. So we're pretty lucky here on the Cape because 4Cs is actually one of 13 state colleges and universities to pioneer a fully inclusive post-secondary education program for young adults, regardless of attaining their diploma. So we have some students that participate in that. We also have a paralegal assistant training program that's at the Barnstable Courthouse, and we have a few students this year who are going to participate in that. So that program focuses on students who may not receive a traditional high school diploma. It is focused on students who have autism, and they offer them a structured exposure to a paralegal assistant training program with professional in the courthouse. So that's a pretty awesome opportunity to develop some clerical skills, vocational skills, promotes inclusion and independence. So that's a nice opportunity for our students. And then we also have other partnerships within our community here. So we have students who do some work at the Service Center, Betsy's Diner, the Falmouth Public Library, Meals on Wheels, and Swap Shop. And then we also have programming within the high school as well. So there's opportunities for students who can work on some employment skills and daily living skills like cooking and laundry, and actually practice taking the bus as well for public transportation. I wanted to highlight one of our partnerships this year. So we have a dental program, a mobile dental program that we work with. They are working with our all of the elementary schools, Morse Pond, and then there's going to be some programming at the Lawrence School as well. So this is pretty awesome. They come to the school, the parents fill out the necessary paperwork, and then they offer not only cleanings, but they can do a little bit of dental work as well for students, or make referrals as needed. So it's a pretty valuable opportunity for students who may not easily be able to get to see a dentist. And this is a new program for us this year, and the feedback we've had from the nurses thus far has been very positive. We also have a partnership with Duffy Health Center's alternative peer program, which I've mentioned in the past, but this year we're working with them to implement the I Decide curriculum. So this is a substance abuse reduction program developed through a partnership between Harvard and MGH. So 2 of our counselors at the high school have completed the training to use this program as a proactive, like tier 2 measure for students who have expressed some concerns about substance and nicotine use. So this is another opportunity that we have. And then last but not least, we talked a lot, and I think we ended in June with our Sharing Kindness presentation. And last year we had that program at Morse Pond, Lawrence, and the high school. And this year we have it at the elementary level. So it's starting at the East Falmouth School. So that's a nice, again, an opportunity to support the peer groups. So people didn't remember from last year. Does anyone have any questions?
It start in the middle time, right? Okay, Glenda?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
I'm so excited that the Sharing Kindness program is in the elementary schools. It's going to go around to all 4 of them.
Yes.
That's so great. I loved that presentation. And also the dental program. When we went on our tour of all the schools with Lori, that was happening at Morse Pond the day we went, and that was so cool. I had no idea that was possible. So thank you for the update.
Thank you so much, very impressive, thank you.
No, thank you. And I had not heard of the paralegal thing before, so it's always fun to learn.
Yeah, so that's a new program for us this year. I think it may have been discussed a few years ago, but we have some students who will be doing that.
Very cool.
Yeah, no questions. It sounds like great collaborative program, so thank you, Sandy.
Yeah, they're really interesting programs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. Anything else? Okay, thanks, Annie. Okay, next will be a discussion on budget for FY27.
Thank you. So we always, in November, try to just give a brief update discussion about where we're heading, and then the bigger presentation will be in December. So December 9th, Paul and I will present the budget. If you can hold on to this before, I just want to talk about the budget priorities before we start getting into the numbers. Thanks, Paul, because we're going to be more interested in the numbers. And then we have our PTO meetings planned for early January before we come back to the school committee to vote on the budget. But to talk about my strategic priorities, safety, of course, is one. You heard the safety, my update. So Paul will talk a little bit about how that's going to be reflected in the budget. Another priority is to increase the special education funding levels in the budget that reflects today's increased cost. Again, Paul will talk a little bit about that. And although the enrollment is declining, I just want to say that the student needs continue to grow. And so we always address students' needs. and make sure that the level of services and supports in place matches the needs of the individual students. One of the things I'd like to take a minute to talk about is beginning to regain a budget that allows for growth. And we have been in a pattern for the last several years of just trying to keep up with what the needs are. And the town, of course, supporting us and see that the need, that we can't just meet needs, we have to also grow. And I believe that they are supporting us. So although in FY27, next school year, which is the budget that we're working on, I will not be able to move toward these things. Paul has done a nice job working us to a point that I believe in FY28, which is the fall of 27, so we're opening school 27, that we will be able to start talking about the elementary world language program again. So I started thinking about it. I know.
We see.
But when we first mentioned it, and it was a priority of mine, those students that would have started the program are in 5th grade this year. And I really want to point out that it's unfortunate that many grades have missed out on what the benefits of a world language program can be. So it's important for us to get to our budget that we can allow for that growth. So in the fall of 2027, opening the school 2027, we're looking at starting with our world language program, and then also growing our preschool by two classrooms. So we believe that we can get there by then to begin, shifting that budget from just meeting needs to also growing. And then, of course, the high academic achievement for all students. We will be doing that by maintaining or increasing staffing as needed for special education, for ELD, for reading specialists, for the needs of the students. That will always remain true and first priority. By improving our processes, we've been talking to you within our goals, multi-tiered systems of support and our instructional support teams. We're improving those processes, which therefore help students be able to achieve meeting those needs. And then the third way of improving achievement is making sure that we are addressing a child holistically. So the counseling supports that we've talked about, partnerships with our family, human services, McLean Hospital, Riverside Trauma and Community Care, all support that social emotional, improving our breakfast and lunch program, improves how students perform when we know that they're fed, and with our partnerships with Falmouth Service Center and Falmouth Human Service and Cape Kid Meals. So all of that is kind of the package of how we're moving forward and making sure that our students are showing nice growth and outcomes. Paul, now you can talk about numbers.
All right, let me just give a quick recap just over the last couple of years. We've done a fiscal year 25 budget. We increased the budget by 3.7%. In addition to that, we had a $300,000 draw that was built into that budget for fiscal year 25. For fiscal year 26, we had a 5.5% increase in our budget. And included in that year was a $340,000 increase in 3 categories for special education, namely out-of-district tuitions, out-of-district transportation, and special education contracted services. So for this year, we increased those categories for fiscal year 26, $340,000. So now, for the budget for 27, we continue that growth in discussions with the town. We sort of come to an agreement of the 5.8% increase in our budget, from 5.5 and from 3.7 plus a $300,000 draw.
And if you look down on this sheet that we just passed out, you can see some of the drivers of this budget. So the key non-salary increases. This is the busing contract that was settled last year. It's a small increase of $56,000. Out-of-district tuition, looking to increase the budget number by $200,000. Out-of-district transportation by $250,000. Special ed contracted services by $250,000. And just to give you a sense, to go back over that, if you look at the out-of-district transportation, we were about $587,000 over budget last year on that line. So even though we increased it substantially, it was over budget last year. So we're trying to get to a point where we no longer going forward have to hit any stabilization fund for the future in case of a rare emergency. These lines now have sufficient budget in them to handle the variance that may occur year to year. So in special ed contracted services, there was $219,000 over budget. That's largely therapeutic related costs for students, etc. The other category, a smaller increase, is utilities. I often use this category in conjunction with maintenance. So the more we save on utilities, like we did last year, we were down about $100,000 in our budget on utilities. We actually increase in our maintenance spending line, so we kind of swap those two together. But that's the utilities here is largely the supply side of that, of the distribution side of it, sorry, not the and then the other line down, one below that, the security line, that's the cost of the half the salary of an SRO that we would share with the police department. The two new safety monitors that we talked about for our school command center, central command center, so that they can now be, monitoring through the software and the cloud program that any activity that takes place on any of our campuses, across elementary, middle, and high school. So it can much more efficiently identify some crossing boundary, etc. They'd be fully concentrated on that with the use of the software. And then in addition to that, there's about $88,000 in software-related costs and servicing costs for that contract. Final category is really other, and it's really an estimation of maternity leave benefits that was part of the contract. So, the contracts have been, assuming the assumption, the ratification of the FAA is all built into the salary line, and so on, so that the salary line reflects those increases. The only non-salary item that is on this non-salary expense increase is the estimate on the maternity leave. Because it's a guess.
I'm sorry, what was that last thing? Did you say
So,
maternity leave? I just missed it.
Paternity leave, I should say.
That's in the other? Oh, non-salary,
Yeah, it's in the-
okay.
All right,
And
so
again, can I just point out, there was two things here. You have not voted on the, excuse me, have not voted on the SRO or the contract. That's the proposed, but we're budgeting because we don't yet know about the other. So but it's projected at this point.
So total non-salary increases would be about $1.080 million. That compares to about $830,000 last year. This is, again, early stage, getting a sort of narrowing down the focus through that conversations with the town on the agreed upon increase of 5%.
Cal,
Nope, I'm good.
Chris?
I'm sorry if I missed this. So the salaries for the safety monitor and half the cost of the SRO, that's
In the security one.
in the securities, so that's salaries, but it's non-salary expenses?
Right, we put it in there to sort of highlight the change. If you put in the salary increase in the salary expense line, it's gonna get blended in.
You want sort of priority.
Yeah, just to make it a priority.
Okay. Thank you.
Melissa?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Just a couple real quick ones. Can you just remind me real quick, the busing increase, was that because of our new Lucini contract?
Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't to do with buying vans and minibuses? Not what we
Those
voted
were
on?
the part of the capital articles that were approved
Okay.
in November.
And then the utility costs, I was just wondering, sort of a two-part question. Are there any more saving costs that we can realize through doing things like you did all that work last year with turning the heat down earlier and later, and is there anything additionally that we can do?
Yes, there is. We're constantly looking at it. Our goal is to try to get this dollar for dollar at a much lower level again this year. Getting to the 100,000 that we stated might be aggressive, but our goal is to bring it down.
You mean to be able to repeat that, or to like double it?
That may be aggressive, but we're looking.
Oh, I thought that would be like an iteratable expense saving year after year, the same, no?
Well, it's not that, once you saved 100,000, because you've compressed the heating and cooling time depending on the building, you can only go so far, you can tweak it.
Okay,
but
yeah,
it's-
you don't want to freeze people. And the upcoming solar canopies that are going in the summer, is that going to directly impact our utility payments, and we'll have a lower
Yes, it will.
price? Only for those two schools or district-wide? Is
No,
it district-
district-wide, lower.
I thought you had said that before, but I just couldn't remember. Thank you.
Margaret, any
I'm
questions?
good.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Were these your colors or Lori's? Were these your colors?
No, Paul, he understands how I like my colors.
Yeah, these colors are very helpful. Okay. Okay, so now we'll do some work on policies. There's first reads on CTE. You can read it out and we'll go over it. Lori, did you want to say anything about the first reads?
Yeah, so we can go over this. I'm gonna ask Dr. Tellier to talk about the middle school career. Sorry, can't talk.
All right. So coming out in late summer, we are now required to implement this policy. This is a model policy that came specifically from DESE. And so part of it is just articulating what's available to students, both at Falmouth High School, but also at schools for which we are a sending district, so Upper Cape and then Bristol Agricultural, so spelling that out. And then within that too, setting up what career exploration will be and what the conversations will be with our middle school students, specifically in this context, more at school, but also bridging that into some introductory work at Morris Pond. I'm happy to answer questions, but that's the broad brush.
I have a question. Do you want to take me last? I don't know where we are in our system.
You always have a lot of questions about policy, so why don't you go first?
I only have one on this one.
Oh, my goodness.
I have one edit and one question.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. So under student, I'm just gonna give you my edit because it's just a typo.
Okay.
Under student data release, for this section, I don't know, it's right, it's in the middle.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It says that we have to give notice to adequate notice for parents and guardians and eligible students a reasonable time to request that this information not be shared. But it doesn't say how to do that. So does that, the how-to exist somewhere else for how people opt out of sharing
The
data?
how-to will be part of our communications that the principals will send out, and then the information.
When it actually happens?
Yeah.
Okay, great. That was my only one. And then I was gonna give you this time.
Okay,
Okay.
Mike?
Just one question, under collaboration, you mentioned Upper Cape Tech, it's in there. You also mentioned Bristol Aggie, that's our agricultural. Are they to be named in here as well, or just Upper Cape?
On the second page, it's about halfway down, Bristol County Agricultural.
Oh, yeah, I see that, but I'm saying that under the collaboration heading, it just mentions collaborating with Upper Cape Tech on, go to page 3, let's say, on the top.
So I can clarify that with our teams. That looks a little different. We don't have the same volume of students that go
Okay,
there,
yeah.
so promoting the opportunity, and if they ask to visit, we can coordinate that, but maybe we can articulate it a little different.
That's, because you said them both, and I only saw one in
Yeah.
the second part, and that's why I asked, but thank you very much, that's it.
Okay.
I don't know if you said this in your intro and I missed it. Did we have a policy relating to CTE at all? And this, or is this
No.
brand new?
This is brand new at the requirement of DESI.
At the requirement of DESI. All right, thank you, I missed that.
Okay. Chris?
This is kind of like a generic question. So this is a policy for public schools to kind of introduce students to CTE programs outside of the district?
It's to introduce career technical education, but then also because we are a sending district, we're a member district, right? Is
Right.
also to have it codified what that relationship is and what
Okay.
communication around that would
Gotcha.
look like.
So is this something that could potentially lead to more students leaving the district and going to other vocational schools?
I think
Just out of curiosity.
it ties with our efforts also to promote our own career technical education pathways, right?
Okay.
And to really make sure that students and families are aware of everything that we offer and the extent to which we offer them. I mean, there are certain pathways that are only going to be available if a student studies at Upper Cape Tech or if a student studies at Bristol, but there are some that align, right, run parallel to what we have.
Right.
And so we need to be able to showcase that as well and help make informed decisions. And so our counseling staff, our guidance counselors are also part of that, as well as our career technical education team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So, policy will, I don't know what we'll do with it, but it'll come back for a vote again. Okay, that's how it works. Next one?
Okay, so EFBA is school food and nutrition meal modification. This is a new mask model policy. And it asks districts to commit to that the district will provide meal modifications at no extra charge for students with disabilities or special dietary reasons that restrict the student's diet on a case-by-case basis. And this policy is written as mask suggests to make sure that this is great. We already do this. I just want you to like to know. Yeah, this is a practice of Falmouth Public Schools. And, you know, our nurses work with the food services, our special education teacher, you know, so whatever needs to happen, we do that. It's kind of seamless. And really, it just doesn't point out any difference with any of our students. We do it well. Now it's a policy saying that we do it. Any questions on that?
I'm sorry, once again, I missed, is this from DESI or MASC?
This is mask.
Okay.
This is a mask model policy. The other one was because Massachusetts regulations changed, and so that one came out because of regulations. And then, any other questions on that? Can I?
Yeah.
Okay, KBG, Parent Advisory Council. This is just, again, it's a new mask model policy developed to comply with state law that requires us to have 2 parent advisory councils. special education, parent advisor council, and English learner parent advisor councils, both of which we have been doing. Again, I'm very proud that we have both, and they're both, functional parts. We can always grow both of them, and we do try, but we really put an emphasis on that, and that's a point of pride. Now we have a mask model policy that reflects that.
Any questions from anybody? No. Okay. All right. So the next one is to act on policy JJE, student fundraising activities. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. All those, any discussion?
Can I just ask a point of clarification? That the neon yellow and the red, are those the only changes?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, yeah.
Okay. So where were we? Voting? We're ready to vote? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any noes or abstaining? Okay. Next is to act on policy JICA, student dress code. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second again.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes.
Katrina?
I just want to remind everybody before you vote that, once again, I'm just reminding what I said before, that this is the last instance of this MASC model language that will be with us. If we vote this out, it will no longer exist in the handbooks or in our policy manual. And similar to the two MASC model language policies that we just looked at for a first read, this is the same. Is that correct? It's also an MASC model policy, right? This one, that's how it came to us.
It's a mask model policy.
So we have been advised, our legal counsel has determined that it's legally permissible to take this out of our policy manual and instead just point to the individual school handbooks, which is what we will be doing. It'll just say student dress codes are published within each school's student handbook. Now, the reason I keep making a fuss about this one is that we will be very much an outlier if we do that. Legality is a separate issue from, in my opinion, what is best for students. It's separate. And as a school committee member, my first priority, our first priority as a committee, is to look to the students and what's best for them. And I believe that removing language that is meant to protect their freedom of expression does not align with my personal understanding of my role on this committee. This was recommended by MASC, and although taking this language out does seem to protect the district from a legal conflict between the JICA language, and our specific district handbook dress codes, there is a conflict, and taking this out will remove that, and it will protect the district in that way. I just don't think that it protects the students. I've said that over and over. It just protects the school district, not the students. And as I've said in our previous meeting, I reviewed a lot of districts, not all of them, but the ones that were on the MASC website, 127 districts. We will be one of the very, very few, I could count on one hand, maybe 7. I think there were 7, so 2 hands, that do not have this language. So we will be the outlier. We will be removing freedom of expression language from our policy, and unless somebody puts it back in at some future point, that's just a protection that is gone for our students. That's all I can say about that.
Well, I just want to clarify too, because I think that there may have been a misunderstanding between us. So I just want to make sure that we can clarify. So one, this is taking it out here. We could do one of two things. You could take all of the different school policies, because they're different at different age levels. We could take all of those and we could put it in here. And then it would exist here and there, right? But you don't have to do that, because the school committee votes the handbooks. So in essence, the handbooks are the policy. The second point I want to make is that we have to abide by the law, whether you have a policy or not. So that always supersedes. So we will always follow the law. And I do believe that all the dress codes in all of our school handbooks has the protective language. And then the other thing that, I think there was some confusion. I was saying that we do not have to have JICA in order to have that protective language. So I stick with that. What I was trying to say is that, you could have JICA and even though our town has not adopted the health policy of Chapter 7181, you could still have that in there. That doesn't mean that just because our town doesn't, you could have it in there because it's a theory that we support it, right? So it's not wrong, right? But it's two different things. The point is, if all of our policies are different in all of our handbooks, it doesn't seem right that this doesn't reflect that. And then the point is that you vote the handbooks. So in essence, you're voting the policy of each of the different handbooks.
I think perhaps the misunderstanding, in my view, is that when the districts that do have JICA language in there, most of them have actually added to it. And at the bare minimum, they will say something like, the dress code must adhere to safety guidelines and health and safety and sanity. What am I trying to say? Sanitation, like it has to be clean. There's like some basic guidelines, but they won't remove JICA and have nothing in their policy or their handbook that specifically says that students are entitled to freedom of expression under state law. All I'm saying here is that it's different than our handbooks. All of our handbooks are different and they are unique, but the handbooks are not the same as a policy that overarchingly protects student freedom of expression. If we take this out, we don't have that umbrella under which our handbook policies will exist. Do you see what I'm saying?
We have the law.
We have the law, but what I'm saying is that in our manual, and I'm not going to beat this dead horse, it seems like people don't agree with me, and that's fine, but I just want to make it clear that of the other districts that I looked at, many, many, many of them have actually added to this language to make it really clear that you can't pull a student aside and discipline them if their dress code is out of alignment. You can't do it in front of other students. You can't have a power differential. You can't, they've gone to extraordinary lengths to actually broaden the scope of what this policy language says, and we are going in the opposite direction. And although we have language in our handbooks, that language is not the same as protective umbrella that says these are your basic rights. That's all I'm saying. It won't exist anymore. It will be individual handbooks, and I don't think there's any point in being redundant and putting the handbooks in here. That's not the point I'm making. The point is that they're separate things and that the policy that protects student right to self-expression through dress, which is protected by the state, is not going to be clear. That's all.
Okay. The policy manual is a living animal. I'm going to tell you, in 18 years, there was one day, and I wish somebody who'd been on the policy could verify that I'm not exaggerating that fact, that it was up to date. It changes constantly. One thing we do when we work on the policies that we eliminate or change is if we don't do what the policy says at the time, we have to edit it or eliminate it. So we have our handbooks doing dress codes right now, okay? So the policy isn't reflecting of that for all the different dress codes for each different school. So taking it out is what I think you really need to do right now. It's not saying you can't bring it back at another time if you change the dress codes or do something different. And there is no law in Massachusetts that says you have to have a dress code in your policy manual. So we're not breaking any laws by doing that. So I'm saying for right now, it's just, I think, a good decision because we do have the handbooks and we are always revisiting policies. So that's my opinion on this right now. Okay, is there any other?
Just a clarification question. This is what Dr. Dorr just said. All of the individual dress codes for the schools are in the handbooks.
Right.
And then this is just deleting the umbrella language and pointing to the handbooks.
Yes, and according to our legal advice, the protective language that I think Katrina's trying to say that would be lost. It is in the individual handbooks.
So this vote does not change the individual handbooks themselves, it just points to, okay.
For example,
Yeah.
at the high school, kids can wear things that as long, like they can't wear those spiky collars, necklaces that are spiky collars. Or things that talk about sex and drugs on their t-shirts, but anything else they want to do, they can at the high school, right? I mean, they can wear hoodies now.
I don't know.
Have you walked? Excuse me, I spent a lot of time in the high school. I beg to differ with you about what goes,
We
what,
made our handbook for the high school a little more specific in June, so there are some limitations.
yeah, but still. So, I mean, there is those freedom of action, but the point is, right now, and I'm telling you, after all these years, if you don't do a policy, you have to take it out or edit it, and we don't really do that. We do you know, by the way, handbooks are as legal as the policies, so anyway. So that's my comments on this. Chris?
Just a quick question. And so this language is in the handbook? Like this language is as written is in the handbook?
We would have to do a cross-reference on work, because every handbook is different, but the protective language that keeps coming up, the protective language for our students is in each handbook.
I thought we
But
voted
each
it out in June. Didn't we vote JICA out of the handbooks in June? We did that in June, so I don't think it's in the handbooks anymore. We had a whole vote about it in June. And then the only location of it was in the policy manual after that, and so that's why I've been making such a fuss about this, because it really is the last stand of JICA.
Going back to the notes, just.
Not my recollection.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is proper, but if we're gonna be going through notes, looking up stuff, I would make a motion to table this, considering the timing, and
I would second that.
Anybody want to second that motion?
I would second that. If it's that confusing, because I said it at our last meeting that we took it out of our handbooks in June, and I guess I should have pulled up the notes so that we could confirm that, but that was in our meeting. And if it's a source of confusion, I don't want to take our time right now to do that.
Well, if we still need to do research, I think Mike made a good motion, right?
We have to vote on it.
It wouldn't take
So-
a second just to look in the policy manual to see if it's there. It wouldn't take but a second to look in the policy manual to see if it's there.
I mean, the notes
It's the
say,
handbook.
the notes say that it's there. I'm just, but I don't, this is.
I think just to clarify my point, I think what Chris was, and I don't want to speak for Chris, but he had asked if similar language or the exact same language was in every handbook. And that's where the research would be for every handbook, and that's why I'd mentioned tabling it, just so we could get to that, but.
And so, when policy met, did you guys talk about it?
Did we talk, specifically what? Talk about, we
Oh,
did talk.
this question.
We talked
Because you
about-
guys were gonna take this back up, so I'm just wondering about your conversation. Because I defer to, I mean, the policy subcommittee spends a lot of time on these, and you have legal counsel, so if you talked about it and came to a conclusion, that's what I'm gonna base.
Our conclusion was to take it out, that's why it's here.
Okay.
But I don't
I
have the
appreciate
notes from the committee meeting. The only note I have
Okay,
is.
let's
the
stop
handbook doesn't
right
contain
now
our
and
repeat.
vote and
Oh,
table it.
Okay, great.
Okay, because we're doing what we often do, we go on this
Yep.
tangent, we have a solution to look it up offline.
Make a
Okay,
motion to table.
All those
And I
in
will second
favor,
that.
because it was seconded.
Yes, I seconded it.
All those in favor of tabling this?
Aye.
Yeah,
Aye.
yeah. How many is it? I can't,
It's
4 and
enough.
4, so it doesn't,
okay.
I'm sorry.
no, 4 and 4, so it doesn't get passed.
So who is who's
I thought-
voting to table it? Because I'm just trying to. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, it gets passed.
Okay. All right, so we'll,
When, just curious,
I believe if you table it, you have to vote on it the next meeting.
Yes.
I believe that's the way it goes, but it'll
okay.
give us time to clear up, Katrina's questions and everybody's questions.
I don't think actually we should have tabled it, that's for like an
Can I
extreme
just
situation,
respond to
aren't we
that?
supposed to have
Yeah.
indefinite, or
It
postponed it
depends.
definitely?
You don't necessarily have to bring it up at the
Now we're
next
doing
meeting,
this
you can
thing.
table it and never bring it up. So tabling it doesn't mean you have to bring it up at the next meeting. You've tabled it and whatever happens, happens.
Well, isn't it killed for?
If it doesn't come up in the next meeting
If it
instead,
doesn't
but-
come up at the next meeting, so we
That's
have to.
indefinite
No, it doesn't have to. Once something's been tabled, it can be tabled forever.
Okay,
mean,
so
we
I
didn't
think
give
that
a
the
timeline.
intent was just to look
Yes.
into those
I
handbooks.
think you should have
And I
said
think
postpone to the next
Okay.
meeting, you have to give a
I mean,
definite
no, I mean,
date.
you
Yeah.
can put it on the agenda.
I'm
just saying it
honest, you
doesn't
can
have to.
trust me, Mike. I'll bring it
I
back.
motion to accept the minutes as written.
Oh, wait, are we there?
I
Okay.
second that motion.
I haven't looked at them yet, though, so give me a second.
Oh, come on, I seconded you. Come on, I was
This is
trusting you.
discussion time. I'm good.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? Okay, passes. Committee reports. Any committee reports?
Same old, same old. Hopefully, maybe by December meeting, we will have a contract ratified by FDA. It would be nice for our staff to get all of that pay. So more to come, hopefully. No news here.
Okay, connecting to the report we heard from Aaron on the EL program, VIPS is, wants to hook up with Aaron, actually. We haven't asked Laura yet, though, to help out with this new program, which is so interesting. Because VIPS has a lot of volunteers that really want to do literacy, and there aren't enough things that they can get involved with. So this is an opportunity. So maybe even if Aaron doesn't need the help, they're gonna, try to get some people in there. Anyway, it just was, when she was talking about that, I was thinking about that. And so that's a VIPS report. And there's so much going on with the collaborative right now, because this is their 50-year anniversary. So I'm gonna get some handouts to bring to you to see the events that we've been involved with this year. And also, from now on, you have to, I have to be on the agenda. It's some new legal thing from the, that the collaborative liaison person has to be on the agenda and give a report every time. So just to let you know that's coming. I don't know why, but anyway, okay. That was my committee report. Mike?
I missed the DEIB committee this month, but we have a new member, Suzanne Thomas. And the Indigenous Peoples' Day went swimmingly. That's what I got from the notes I was sent. Thank you.
Margaret?
Well, this is exactly committee reports, but number one, I want to thank you and appreciate your indulgence to me to ask my questions. Number two, I did send to the school committee, but I've checked on in previous, after going to the convention last week, I realized the importance of us getting together, not just at this table, but in a more social environment where we get to learn and talk to each other as human beings. And so I sent to the committee, but I'm also inviting the other members around the table, December 19th to my home at 5:30 for some holiday cheer. The only thing I ask is that you let me know if you're coming so I can understand how many people will be there. And the last thing that's really not relevant, but I think it's relevant, is I think it's Farm Family. Tomorrow between 10 and 2, where normally the farmers market is, they're going to have vegetables there for root vegetables there tomorrow between 10 and 2. People should know that so they can be invited. Thank you.
Okay, was that Sandy's recording you just gave? You know who used to get the recording about?
Oh, Fresh Market.
Fresh Markets, yeah.
Could I request for?
Follow up, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's it. The update on staff attendance, you had an update about that on November 18th, and I was just wondering if we would hear about that at, maybe, I thought maybe it would be tonight or maybe our next meeting.
Well, we outperformed the state average on attendance for administrators, teachers, and staff.
Yay.
There's a,
Wonderful.
when it came out, so we.
Oh, I saw that.
Did you see that?
Yeah. I scrolled down, I couldn't see us right at the top, so I'm like, that's not bad. Because they ranked them all. I have one request for follow-up, I've mentioned it before, but that iReady stuff, if we could break that down by school, that would be great, thank you.
Margaret?
At a previous meeting, I asked that we do a workshop on operational procedures, and I asked that Sean be invited to lead it, and I'm asking if there's any negotiations or anything's been done about it.
So far?
Yeah.
To be honest with you, no, Margaret, because there's a lot of other things that, but we usually do something like that in January, so, yeah.
Well, I just think I think other people have said it's really important, and I think it really be important in terms of our working together, that we do have a workshop as soon as possible.
Okay. Liz? Yeah. Any other requests, Chris?
I would second Mike's regarding kind of the breakdown and kind of in preparation, breakdown of the elementary schools, just to be certain. In terms of, in preparation for our next, and I don't know if it's gonna be our next special meeting where we're gonna be hearing about 8th grade moving up, but for that meeting, it'd be nice to kind of have, you know, not a presentation, but like a brief explanation of kind of the pros of 8th grade moving up or staying down. And also, you know, I was kind of thinking in terms of how, you know, in terms of our educational strategic plan, how 8th grade, whether it's moving up or staying down, how that kind of aligns with our educational goals. I feel like that would be helpful in kind of, you know, almost giving us a path in terms of some options are gonna be better than others. So that's kind of a request if that's possible.
I agree. I agree. I agree with both of those requests, just so you know.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in
Four,
favor?
second.
Third, can I do third?
Any opposed or, oh, well, you slept.
Yeah.